We see this initiative as very important. As you know, the National Democratic Congress was involved in this. We have been a part of it since the year 2016. Historically, Mr. President, we have also attempted to improve the electoral system in 2012 when we introduced the new voters identification system. So we have a track record in that direction, Mr. President, and we have maintained 8 proposals to the parties and entities involved, including, Mr. President, the government of Grenada, and also, Mr. President, engaging the electoral office, of course, before the general election. We believe it is necessary, Mr. President, to implement these suggestions and more as we go along, Mr. President, before even holding any question of voting. Mr. President, for us, we do not believe that by itself, just saying that we will have free and fair elections is sufficient. Mr. President, all of the loopholes needs to be filled, and that is the basis to which we want to maintain negotiations with the entities involved and to continue on the path, Mr. President, for genuine democracy of the people. Mr. President, despite we commend this move, Mr. President, we still think that the bill needs some strengthening. It is not sufficient from where we sit, Mr. President. We have some areas that we have some concerns with, so we would like to put that out this morning. Mr. President, Section 3, as Senator James has expressed, I don't need to go it over, but the word more still to us is too ambiguous. We have never had a need, Mr. President, for more than one assistant supervisor of elections. And we are not certain as to why that word could not just simply be one. In the case, Mr. President, where a supervisor retires or is fired, Mr. President, we expect that the assistant will act in his or her position. And we do not believe that you should promote the idea that there should be more than one assistant supervisors of elections. It is not a necessity as we see it. So that's just one area. Mr. President, we have a second area in the question of influencing electors to vote for any candidate. Mr. President, as the government of Grenada may be aware, we have negotiated with them and we have expressed the concern that candidates on election day has been going in other constituencies, not directly to say vote for my candidate, Mr. President, but to greet and to meet people. Mr. President, as we see it, whenever you become a candidate in a general election, you are effectively a brand of the political organization to which you represent. And wherever you go, whether it be before elections or even on election day, Mr. President, you will more than likely be able to influence. And as you know, the law doesn't say that it has to happen, but once the perception is created that it can happen, Mr. President, we still cite this as a loophole. So we have some concerns with that. We will continue to make our voices be heard on this issue, Mr. President, I guarantee you this. But, Mr. President, we are satisfied that progress is being made. Mr. President, we have some areas that we believe should have been added in the bill, because when we talk about strengthening, we are not concerned primarily with just the amendments before us. We know that the process is still ongoing, and we understand and accept that. But, Mr. President, there are some areas still that concern us. One such area, Mr. President, is the question of the campaign financing. Now, it was recommended by the OAS, Mr. President. Yes, Mr. President. It was recommended by the OAS that we should move in this direction to pass an act to govern the question of campaign financing. And Mr. President, this came as a result from the public report to which the OAS published after the March 13th election. And with your permission, I would just like to read part of what the report said about that. While stakeholders recognize, quote, that access to financial resources, or a lack thereof, plays an indisputable role in any election and can render the playing field unequal, most persons with whom the mission spoke were uncertain about the origins of resources for Grenada's election, and whether or to what extent this might have influenced the outcome of the elections in any way. Recognizing that unregulated financing from unidentifiable sources has potential to impact the equity of the democratic process. And in order to promote transparency and accountability in electoral process in Grenada, the mission reiterates the recommendations of previous OAS observation missions that the government of Grenada, along with other appropriate stakeholders, consider political party and campaign finance regulations that establish a clear limit on campaign spending, require political parties to disclose their sources of funding, prohibit anonymous and foreign donations, and limit private and in-kind donations to political and electoral campaigns in this regard, unquote. So, Mr. President, the OAS has made this abundantly clear. As you know,
available for members of the Senate and ourselves, just for the future. This issue of campaign financing, are you presenting a proposal for an amendment to the bill before us?
No, Mr. President. Mr. President, we believe that because the referendum is coming soon, it's not going to make any sense to try to force that point. So we are just stating
well, okay, I've allowed you a little bit of liberty because we focus on the bill before us. Now, if it was your view that you wish to entertain, you wish to present an amendment to the bill in order to incorporate into it campaign financing, and you made that presentation, then you could have then debated on that component part. But since that's not your intention, and there's nothing in this bill dealing with campaign financing, I will advise that we stick to the bill. Are you following me?
Yes, Mr.
Because
President.
The bill before us has nothing on campaign financing. You could have introduced campaign financing provided that was your purpose to propose an amendment. Then we will be debating the amendment that you would have presented. But there's no such thing before us. So please stick to the bill, because the session has been convened exclusively to deal with the bill as being presented. Follow me?
Fully understood, Mr. President. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and which will take me to my second point, which is in line with the bill. The section which deals with claims and objections, Mr. President. No, I'm sorry, Mr. President. Let me just get this.
Inquire?
My apologies, Mr. President. Not claims and objections. I'm just trying to get it right. Mr. President, just bear with me for 1 minute. I was a bit thrown off there. My apologies. Yes, Mr. President. So it is clause 9, I believe.
Clause 9.
Yes. Amendment of Section 87 of the Principal Act, Mr. President. Influencing electors. Now, Mr. President, I made mention to that earlier, Mr. President. We are satisfied with part 1 of this amendment. We think it's okay. But, Mr. President, we want to suggest that we amend that part and place an additional subsection to deal with the question of candidates, Mr. President, as govern how candidates would vote. Because, Mr. President, in the question of influencing electors, Mr. President, it is of our view that there is still a loophole available, not necessarily for a referendum, but in a general election. And, Mr. President, we see the need to implement and put in place a system to which will govern how candidates go to other constituencies on election day. We do not see the reason why this was not added. We have raised this with our other parties, and we have spoken to this, Mr. President, in relation to negotiations that we had with the government of Grenada, the Electoral Office, and other observer missions who even indicated, and to a less extent, such as civil society, Mr. President, that they observed that candidates were going around influencing electors on the election day. And Mr. President, we thought that this should have been added because there is no reason why it could not have been added in our view. So, Mr. President, we have some concerns there, and we really would like it to be addressed.
What should be added? I'm a little bit
section,
unclear.
Mr. President, to bar candidates from going in other candidates' constituencies on election day, and polling division rather, and polling station on the election day. Mr. President, in other words, Mr. President, candidate A should not be going in candidate B's polling division and polling stations to greet people in lines and so on during an election. This is our concern. We have observed this in the March 13th election, and we would really like to bring that forward this morning, Mr. President. I must confess that I had some other areas that I would have liked to speak on in relation to other observer missions, Mr. President, but you have indicated that let us keep the discussions in line with the bill, so I am just trying to get my points here in order. But, Mr. President, all in all, we think it's a good move. We are satisfied that the negotiations has brought us to this part. As you know, confidence, Mr. President, these days is very hard to come by. And wherever we see the opportunity to improve, Mr. President, this opposition would certainly support. But, Mr. President, we hope that this is not just an end, and the process will ongo in terms of consistently and as much as possible engaging all parties involved and trying to get, Mr. President, a sense that this is not just a bluff, but a real attempt to improve our democracy for all and sundry in the country. Mr. President, voting in an election is a right, certainly, that everyone enjoys. But, Mr. President, if there are loopholes to prevent the democratic process or stifle it, Mr. President, we are against that. And we are in full support of this bill. We think it is timely. We know why it is timely. But we hope, Mr. President, that the process would be an ongoing one, and we look forward to continued negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Redhead. Senator Cox.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I too stand in full support of the amendment to the People's Representation of the People's Bill 2018. And just to start off by saying, Mr. President, I think this is a very important amendment. I think this increases the integrity of our election process. And more so, it affords Grenada, our country, good standing in the international community as it relates to hosting fair and fair elections. But, Mr. President, I just want to point to Clause 2, which speaks to ensuring that persons who are voting a particular constituency must show evidence of being residing in that constituency. I think this is a very important amendment. There have been a number of calls, a number of reports, a number of accusations, allegations of persons voting in other constituencies and providing support to other candidates who might be weak in their constituency. So I think this shows a significant maturity on the part of all involved, all stakeholders involved, political maturity to treat with this to ensure that no such reports are necessary going forward. However, Mr. President, I think it's important to note, and I think the Leader for Government Business, Honorable Steele, said that in his presentation, that it's since 2017 that this government presented these very said amendments. It took us 1 year, Mr. President, to get to this point or more. So it shows that we as a government have been pushing for this, and we have taken the lead to brought this on the table since 2017. And I think that must be noted and recorded. I think that is important to show leadership on our part to ensure that we bring this process to make it more fair as much as possible. Mr. President, as relates to some remarks, contributions by Senator Redhead regarding the number of registration officers. I don't see the issue, the risk in having more persons supervising a process as against one or two. I do not see what is the risk there by having more persons overseeing a process instead of having one or two individuals. I think it probably adds more integrity to the process. So the issue of the word being more in the bill, I don't see any risk in that. The well-made.
Bill to any significance, because the original bill says an appointment of at least 2, which means you could appoint 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but you must have no less than 2. And we're substituting those words for no more, 1 or more. So the wording ultimately, the consequential effect of the thing is the same. It is just the language seemed to be a little bit tidier. Well, except that in the original, you must have a minimum of 2. Whereas in this case, you could have only 1.
Yes.
Right. But in respect of a number more than 1, it's of no consequential effect as far as I can read. Well, but anyway, I should not have interrupted you. So.
That's fine. That's fine, Mr. President. Mr. President, I was just speaking not so much to that, but there seemed to be some inclination that something, by having the word more, there might be some degree of risk or something not being more definitive to say, well, 5 or 6. So I was just making a point to state that I can't see any risk in having more persons overseeing a particular process than just 1 or 2, given the nature of what elections require in terms of the magnitude and the process and the number of activities that takes place during the election. So I just wanted to point that out. But I must say, Mr. President, from the government side, I want to commend the government for ensuring patience throughout the process, because the government could have well abandoned these amendments, but keeping it alive by ensuring that we continue to engage our stakeholders. Because of the importance of this, I think government must be commended, and all stakeholders as well, for staying the course for us to arrive at this moment today. It's a good place to start. There is other things that stakeholders are concerned about, and those, I believe, can be looked at going forward. So, Mr. President, I just want to give my full support to this amendment. Thank you very much.
I hope you accepted the points that I made. It's not that I wanted to stop your debate, but yes? I just wanted to satisfy myself that you're clear on that, and that you don't, it's not a view that I'm trying to stymie the discussions. I am not at all trying to stymie the discussions. Yeah, just thought I should reinforce that point.
Mr. President, I rise at this point in time to give my unwavering support to this bill. As we look to strengthen the electoral process, I'm very satisfied of this bill. And not only that, but the fact that we have the support from all stakeholders, all political parties. And I am very much in support of this. But most of, Mr. President, clause 10 and 11, the use of cell phones, digital camera, clause 10, part C, the use of cell phones, digital camera, any other electronic device to record, photograph, otherwise capture, publish an image of marked ballot on polling day. Mr. President, I couldn't be much more happy of this clause, of a situation that would have happened, I think, last year, on the last referendum, when a particular individual would have went to the polling station, to the polling booth, and took a photo and immediately posted on Facebook. And I don't know what was the reason of that. And I mean, I saw my good senator laughing because I know he is very acquainted with the individual, but I don't know what was the use of that. I don't know what was the purpose, but I believe it was some sort, as well as influencing other individuals who did not as yet cast their ballots, to show them that, listen, this is the way that we're going to vote. But I'm happy that we inserted that. We want to avoid that in the future. I want to ensure that when someone casts the ballot, it is their personal decision and it should remain within that booth. And the only time it should be released, well, we know who the individual vote for, is when time to count the ballot, Mr. President. So I'm in full support of that clause. As it relates to the increase from 300 to 200,
Senator
500.
Senator Judd, even at that point, the secrecy of the ballot is maintained, so you still don't know.
Yes,
because
that's what I said.
Counting
we
is
wouldn't
not
know who, but
voted. You're
the
counting
point.
ballots before you.
Yes, yes, Mr.
So
President.
the sacrosanctity of the system is based on the absolute secrecy of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after you have voted, you may wish to go and tell tongue, well, I voted A or I voted B.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't record how you voted.
Exactly.
Because it undermines the whole system of secrecy.
And I totally in support of that. As it relates to the fee from 300 to 500, I would have loved to see a much higher fee. I think elections is a serious process, and even during the last election, when people was aware of that fee of 300, people thought as well it should be way more. It's just an increase of $200. I would have loved to see maybe a minimum of probably $1,000. But in fact, the process is increasing, and I hope the next time maybe we make an amendment that we can see a substantial increase. But more so, Mr. President, I am happy of the fact that we are continuing to advance the step of strengthening our electoral process as time change, as we see the advent of technology and how we can be used in the wrong way. I am in support that we continue to make the necessary strengthening of our electoral process. I'm in full support of this bill, and I want to commend the government for taking that decision.
So, Mr. President, in wrapping up the debate, I believe we've received comments from all sides. I wish to commend those members for their contributions, especially those on the other side. In this spirit of bipartisanship and cooperation is certainly gives one a feeling of encouragement, and I just hope that this is the start of how we nurture this spirit, and this spirit of bipartisanship can be extended to other areas of national importance where we must put the needs of our people and the development of our country before those of partisan politics. So I'm certainly encouraged by that. Just picking up on some of the recommendations, some of the other areas that members on the other side wanted to explore. It's important for us to recognize that this is a work in progress. The Representation of the People's Act has been amended maybe half a dozen times since its inception, and will continue to evolve, like all legislation will evolve as there is greater engagement as a nation and the needs of our people evolve. So it is a work in progress, and we can't always capture all that we want at any one time. So in this spirit of bipartisanship and spirit of cooperation. I certainly look forward to members on the other side continuing to engage in this dialogue that the government has started to improve this and other pieces of legislation. And I'm also pleased to hear that there is this broad consensus that the amendments that have been put before us do engender trust and confidence in our electoral process. This is very timely as we are entering an electoral cycle with the upcoming referendum on November the 6th. So I'm pleased that that trust and that confidence that has been expressed by members is genuinely felt. And just building on my colleague on this side, on his response to Senator James and Senator Redhead about their concerns about the appointment of assistant supervisors of election. And I think you summed it up very well, Mr. President. The changing to the one or more statement certainly doesn't take away from the intent of the current wording. What it does do, it legitimizes our current practice because we only have one. The current legislation states two or more, or at least two, sorry, but we have been operating since time immemorial with just one. So first of all, it's necessary because it legitimizes our current practice, but it provides the Governor General with the flexibility that if circumstances dictate at some point in the future, then that can be increased proportionally with the demands of the electoral process. So I certainly don't have the concerns, I don't share the concerns that were raised on the other side. So, Mr. President, in closing, it is clear that the bill before us strengthens our electoral process. There is broad-based consensus on the proposed amendments. It does engender that trust and confidence in the process and is timely with the upcoming referendum. And it's for those reasons, Mr. President, that I commend this bill for its second reading. I thank you.
The question is that the bill be read a second time. Honorable members, the question is that the bill be read a second time. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
A bill for an act shortly entitled Representation of the People Amendment Act 2018.
Senator Steele.
Mr. President, I beg that the Senate resolve itself into a committee of the whole Senate to consider the bill clause by clause.
Honorable members, the question is that this House resolves itself into a committee of the whole Senate to consider the bill clause by clause. Those who have that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Honorable members, this House is now resolved into a committee of the whole House. So we are in committee session. One second. We're taking it clause by clause. So you just wait on the appropriate clause under which you want to raise any clarification or addition. Yeah.
Clause 2, amendment of Section 6 of the Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is that Clause 2, amendment of Section 6 of the Principal Act, forms part of this bill. Senator Redhead, do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, if this is a matter under Clause 2, before I canvass the votes, you can then intervene. Yes? So I'm assuming it's not under Clause 2. Okay, all right, fine. The question is that Clause 2 forms part of the Act. Those who have that opinion say aye. Aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 3, amendment of Section 28 of the Principal Act.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Right, I have it. No, I'm in a committee stage. Mr. President, the question I have is, no, I agree. It doesn't really cause any problem, but how will you increase? And what sort of process? Mr. President, when you're talking about the electoral office, in my view, it is very important that the whole question of secrecy, as you have said, the whole question of confidentiality be applied. Now, when you say one or more, if the need arises, Mr. President, you can't just take somebody out from somewhere and just stick them in. And this is the real concern. In my view, as Senator Steele has said, the practice, the normal practice is to have one assistant. And if that is the normal practice, irrespective of the workload, I don't know that you should just add someone in just like that to share that sort of information and so on when it comes to the electoral office. That is my primary concern with it, and I'm a bit just concerned. If you're changing it, because as you said, rightfully, the change doesn't really change the context to which it says at least two. So if the practice is for one, and we also have the concern that you can't just add somebody in, how would you, that issue there? I don't know how would you just slip somebody in just in case they...
Well, let me just see if I could be a little of some assistance to you. Go to the Principal Act, Section 28. This decision is not we decision. It's exclusively the reserve of the Governor General. It is exclusively the reserve. So let's just read the section. The Governor General acting in his or her own deliberate judgment. So it's the Governor General's reserve. And it's a deliberate judgment issue. So I would assume, being a responsible individual with the weighty office of Governor Generalship of State will take a number of things into consideration, right? But in the exercise of that deliberate judgment, the proposal is that there can be one or more. In the original legislation, it said a minimum of two, which means it could be more than two. It could be 6, 9, or 7. But what seemed to be your concern is the process. And this amendment doesn't change the process. The process is the Governor General deliberates and makes that decision. Doesn't change the process. The process is the same. No, well, read 28 again. You have the bill, you have the original act before you?
I don't have the original act, but I read it, and I saw that the Governor General would be the one appointing and through her own deliberate judgment. But, Mr. President, I agree that it doesn't deal with the process, but just the change, if really and truly we say that the practice is for one, I'm just simply saying, why the change couldn't just be that there should always be one assistant supervisor of election, and the process would be handled separately. In other words, Mr. President, I am not trying to take away from the real point. We believe that there must be an assistant, but if the normal practice is for one, why not just state this in the amendment and say one? If the question arises, Mr. President, for an assistant to the assistant, I don't know that this should be handled or should be said in the law. That's just my point. So,
no, but then the problem will arise, who does what?
Right. So then,
then you will have a problem, because if the law isn't clear in terms of the process, first of all, as I said, the decision resides purely with the Governor General, and the Governor General makes that determination. Do we need 3? Do we need 2? Do we need more than 1? The Governor General makes that decision. So that's the process.
Okay.
Mr. President, Mr. Chair, I think it's important for us to be very clear. There is no mischief, absolutely no mischief.
I don't know he was suggesting that.
Well, I just wanted to make that very, very clear. What we do not want to be doing is coming to Parliament every time we need to make an administrative change. So whether it's one person that's employed 2 persons, 3 persons, 5 persons. I think you explained very well the powers and the authority of the Governor General and the deliberations that the Governor General would undertake before making any change. The wording here, first of all, addresses our current situation. If we actually want to be frank about it, we've been operating outside of the legislation since the beginning of time because we've only had one. So that's the first thing. So the starting point has to be one. But if we limit ourselves indefinitely, or we have to come back to Parliament to change it from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, I would suggest it's not the best use of Parliament's time. And the wording here just provides that flexibility. It's just flexibility that we can go from 1 to the 2 that's currently specified or more. But it will only be done, the Governor General's deliberate judgment, I would assume, it's not for me to speak on the Governor General's behalf, but I would assume it would be reflective of current demands, current circumstances at that time. And if it's felt that the electoral process has expanded, if the demands on the supervisor of elections and the one assistant has increased, then they'll move to suit. So I said I don't share those concerns at all.
Clause 3? Yeah, Clause 3. Honorable members, the question is Clause 3 forms part of the bill. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 4, amendment of Section 29 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is that Clause 4, amendment of Section 29 of the Principal Act forms part of this bill. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 5, amendment of Section 39 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is that Clause 9, amendment of Section 39 of Principal Act forms part of the bill. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 6, amendment of Section 40 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is Clause 6, amendment of Section 40 of Principal Act forms part of the bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 7, amendment of Section 44 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is that Clause 7, amendment of Section 44 of Principal Act forms part of the bill. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 8, amendment of Section 52 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is Clause 8, amendment of Section 52 of Principal Act forms part of this bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 9, amendment of Section 87 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question to be determined is whether or not Clause 9, amendment of Section 87 of Principal Act forms part of the bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 10, amendment of Section 96 of Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is that Clause 10, amendment of Section 96 of Principal Act forms part of the bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 11, insertion of new section in Principal Act.
Honorable members, the question is Clause 11, insertion of new section in the Principal Act forms part of the bill. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary view say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 12, amendment of first schedule to Principal Act.
Honourable members, the question is that Clause 12, Amendment of First Schedule to Principal Act, forms part of the bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 13, Amendment of Second Schedule to Principal Act.
Honourable members, the question is that Clause 13 forms part of the bill. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 14, Amendment of Third Schedule to Principal Act.
Clause 14, Amendment to the Third Schedule of Principal Act. That's the question to form part of the bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Clause 1, short title.
Honourable members, the question is that Clause 1, the short title, forms part of this bill. Those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I beg to move that the Senate resumes and the chairman of the committee reports progress on the bill.
Honourable members, the question is that the House now resumes and that the chairman reports the progress on the bill. Those of that opinion say aye. Contrary say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Honourable members, the House now resumes. Honourable members, I have to report that the bill was considered by a committee of the whole House and passed without amendment. Senator Steele.
I beg to move the chairman report be adopted.
Honourable members, the question is that the chairman's report be adopted. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move the third reading of the bill.
Honourable members, the question proposed is that the bill be read a third time. Honourable members, the question is that the bill, Representation of the People's Amendment Bill 2018, be read a third time and passed. All those who have that opinion say aye. To the contrary opinion say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it.
A bill for an act shortly entitled Representation of the People's Amendment Bill 2018.
Item number 16, public business. Item number 17, adjournment.
Senator, the Honourable Simon Steele.
Mr. President, I beg to move for the adjournment sine die.
All right, thank you. Honourable members, before I put the question, there are just a couple of things which I wish to bring to members' attention. First of all, absences. And I wish to refer to Standing Order number 72, which on your standing order will be page number 53. I think it is important for me to read the following sections 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, 72, is it? No? Yes, 72. Well, this is page 54, actually. I will read it in its entirety because it's important. Any senator, which is the same thing as saying all senators, any senator, which is the same thing as saying without exception, Any senator who is prevented from attending a sitting of the Senate shall acquaint the clerk as early as possible of his inability to attend. I'll make it gender neutral and say his or her inability to attend. 2, any member, that's any member of the Senate, who intends to leave the state shall so inform the president. 3, if without leave of the president obtained in writing, any senator absents himself from 5 consecutive meetings of the Senate, he shall vacate his seat in the Senate under subsection 2A of section 27 of the Grenada Constitution, which I shall now read verbatim, and I quote, a senator shall vacate his seat in the Senate, A, open quotations, if he is absent from the sitting of the Senate for such period and in such circumstances as may be prescribed in the rules of procedure of the Senate. End of quotation. The rules of procedure in the Senate is to be found in the standing orders. There are senators leaving the state. I may be aware by way of a casual conversation. But because having left the state you would be absent, you are required to inform the clerk. And we have circulated this before. And I just think it important to reinforce this so that all senators are aware of the procedural requirements in the Senate. Thank you, Senators. I just wish to announce that we did have excuses from Senator Glennis Roberts, who only recently returned to the island after representing the Senate at a meeting of Parliamericans in Panama. And to announce that Senators Dunstan Campbell and Judd Cadet shall both be leaving the state on parliamentary business. One senator goes to Nairobi, Kenya, and the other to Suriname. And I want to take the both of them are going to Kenya. Well, then something is wrong on this note. What is this now? Oh, okay, I got your handwriting right. Both senators, one from either side of the House, will leave the part this afternoon for Kenya to represent the Grenada Parliament at the senatorial level at a Commonwealth Parliamentary Association seminar. I want to take the opportunity to wish you safe onward and return journeys. And I know that you will do Grenada proud. It's in our genes. So I wish to thank you. Right. I'm also advised by the clerk to let you know that Dr. Campbell has been invited to deliver a paper at this seminar on climate change. Yes, so please take note of that. I think I spoke also of Glennis Roberts. And in terms of ministerial responsibility, Senator Garway is also currently out of state. And it is my understanding, I have been so advised, that the leader of government's business, Senator the Honorable Simon Steele, in his ministerial capacity, will also be on his way out of state this afternoon. I think your flight is at 1 o'clock. Well, may I bid you the same. Safe onward journey and return. Yes? Anyone else wish to say anything on the adjournment?
Yes, Mr. President. Just to ask a question for some clarification quickly. Mr. President, in our stipend slip from the Parliament, Mr. President, it speaks about the telephone allowance. I just wanted a bit of clarity on it, if you could just explain.
Don't you think that would be better placed with a chat with the clerk?
Well, I did engage.
All right, venture forth. See if I can help you. No, the option is yours. I was asking if you don't think it might have been more appropriate to have a chat with the clerk, but if you wish to raise it, there is a matter.
Mr. President, well, let me follow up with the clerk again, and let me see what could be resolved. If I don't think that is necessary to go. If I have to go through all of that, Mr. President, sorry about that.
It was so steeped in tradition that it's very slow to move with the times. You know, it's very, 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 very slow to move with the times. We can have a little chat on it, and I think it is something that we really need to address. Because Senate procedure is so anchored, as I say, in tradition, that we have forgotten, for the likes of us, that in the early days of the House of Representation, otherwise referred to as the Representative Assembly, the persons who constituted the Assembly were afforded a greater degree of democracy than the mass. In fact, the mass of us had no democracy at all. We were in a semi-slave and in some instances a slave position. So we had very limited or no democratic rights. The people who sat in these assemblies came from the wealthy planter and merchant class. So to them, serving in the assembly was a part of their civic duty. They need no compensation simply because they represented the property class and were well endowed. Over time, those relationships have changed. And today, you have attorneys who otherwise could be making income. Yes, they want to carry out their civic duty. But like everybody else, and like all parliamentarians, we have other responsibilities as well. But the tradition of overwhelming service and not needing any compensation because you were endowed by the privileged position from which you came, that sentiment still prevails. But the social composition of our parliament has dramatically changed over time. So, Senator Reddit, I understand your problem. We will try to address it, but as I'm saying, it's part of a wider problem. It's part of a really wider problem. I wouldn't like to indicate to you what my pension was after 23 consecutive years in the House. But as I say, that's the tradition. And I have learned that in another quarter, this matter is being addressed. All right, so I'm speaking with a sort of trade union bias hat. And I'm not speaking of myself, I'm using the opportunity to advocate on your behalf, but to understand, I understand the problem. Okay, senators? Yes, Senator Lewis.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And before I make this substantive contribution I wanted to make, I just want to take off on this point that you raised about how the social composition has changed and the reward. But I want to put it in a sharper historical context. You made comparison during the slavery period and probably feudalism. But I want to say that 30-something years ago, 79 to 83, that period in the leadership, people gave their service. I'm not saying it should be done now because it's a different period, but we do not have to go back so far as to show that people served and basically didn't get much because they were property. Our leaders, of which I am sure you would be aware, Mr. President, served at the highest level, and the remuneration was little or nothing, but it was done in the interest of the nation. I know it's a different period. I'm not saying we should do that now, but I just wanted to put it in that context. So having gotten that out of the way, I'm very heartened by the process this morning. The bipartisanship, and more than bipartisanship, because it involved the whole of society in addressing the electoral reforms. And because the leader of government business and members of this side here have indicated that the reason why consensus have been able to be arrived at is the fact that because it is a work in progress, you can come back in the next Senate or 2 sittings from now, or 3 sittings from now, and make other relevant amendments. It's a clear indication of all of our willingness to work for the interests of the country. Having said that, it is important that when matters concerning the interests of the nation cannot be amended just by the fact of just coming to the Senate, and we have an opportunity to so do, we must seize upon that opportunity and not rush into it. Yes? This is a clear indication. So this discussion here on the amendments to the representation bill is an indication that as we go along, we can be here next month, 2 months from now. But as we go into matters of national importance that cannot be amended by just coming to the Senate and making a special request, that we will continue working together. But if we observe something that is of extreme importance to the nation and the advancement of our people, let us just slow down a while. Let us get back around the table. Let us make the necessary amendment so that when we come here, we can stand proud and say that we have taken a decision in the interest of our country. And the reason why we had to slow down a bit is because we cannot come back to the Senate. And it's not a matter that this is just in the hands of the Senate in 1 month or 2 months. It might be 20 years from now. So I'm very heartened by that approach. I'm hoping that we'll learn from this and take this approach. And this is my contribution to the process. Thank you very much.
To the contrary opinion, say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Honorable members, this House now stands adjourned sine die.
Persons insisting on entering a polling booth with cellular phone or cameras on election day can now be charged or imprisoned. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, October 5th, 2018, I am Rikisha St. Louis. A person who insists on going into a polling booth with his or her cellular phone or camera on election day can now find himself having to pay a fine of $500 or spend 6 months in prison. The lower house of Parliament passed the Representation of the People Amendment Bill on Friday, which states that no person shall have in his or her possession any electronic device upon entering a polling booth to cast their ballot on polling day. If the person inadvertently walks into the polling booth with any of these devices, he will be required to hand it over to the returning officer, who will then return it after he has cast his ballot. Leader of Government Business, Honorable Gregory Bowen, says the measure is to ensure transparency in the voting process.
Most countries and most political parties are banning the use of cell phones, any electronic system. People think it's only cell phones that could take pictures here. Yeah, we have not reached that stage there. Some pin here, some pin there. The mirror. Maybe we're not, or the glasses, maybe we're not sophisticated as that as yet. See my brother Steele is smiling. So you go in, the law doesn't say glasses. I don't believe that we could cover all area in a modern technological world. But the phones, so we're saying phones and we mentioned cameras, but there are many other things. But this is what will mainly happen. This is what people mainly use. So we now say, do not go into the polling division with a phone.
Minister Bowen says failure to follow this rule could land an offender on the other side of the law.
I'm sure that when the police tell you go out or leave it outside, if you inadvertently walked in with it, then I don't think that they will charge you so much once you hasten to go back. But if you want to say, no, I'm going with it, then perhaps you will end up in serious trouble. There are fines for it, Mr. Speaker.
The Representation of the People Amendment Bill also makes provision for electoral candidates or nominees to do away with the practice of walking with cash on nomination day and simply walking with an official receipt following payment at the government treasury. The amendment states that every candidate or someone on his or her behalf shall, at the time of his or her nomination, provide to the returning officer an official receipt from the Treasury or Revenue Office evidencing payment by the candidate of the nomination deposit of $500 cash. Failing to do so means the nomination of the candidate will be deemed void. Leader of Government Business in the lower house, Honorable Gregory Bowen, says the decision was made after consultations with the Supervisor of Election and other political parties on the representation of the People's Amendment Act 2018.
This is now saying that you can go into the Treasury and pay it into the Treasury and not burden the man by collecting the money and going there. What you want, therefore, is to show on nomination day that you have a receipt. I think we only pay on nomination day. This will allow you to pay maybe a day before or a week before, and you walk with your receipt, and the returning officer, at that time the registration officer will inspect, and well, obviously you come with a receipt. I don't think anybody will try to forge a receipt, but it is within his purview to really see that the receipt is authentic, and then on nomination day, you bring that receipt.
According to Minister Bowen, the nomination fee has increased to $500, an increase of $200, a decision again made through consultations with political parties. Mentally challenged individuals still have an identity and a voice. That statement by Minister for Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, Honorable Delma Thomas. During a meeting of the lower house on Friday, a visibly emotional Minister Thomas addressed the recent circulation of videos of mentally challenged persons on social media. She says it is unfair and inhumane to be making a public spectacle of those who are clearly not in control of their actions.
The video has been transmitted to thousands of people. On the video, what appears to be the voice of two men taking pleasure in conducting the filming as well as making inappropriate, demeaning remarks. Thankfully, Mr. Speaker, the woman has been identified by the police and she has since been brought in for medical and treatment she deserves.
The month of October is designated Mental Health Awareness Month. However, society continues to fail these individuals. Minister Thomas charged the members of the public to be more responsible, more sensitive, and to be their neighbor's keeper.
We as a society must be more sensitive to people with mental illness. What was seen on the tape was not a girl, a woman or a sister deserving of ridicule, but of a fellow human being deserving of our help and intervention. At a time when she was most vulnerable, we as a society failed her. The young men who took the effort and the energy to film her so that she could be the object of ridicule should have used the same energy to reach out to help her. For the scores of people who have distributed the video and who have taken pleasure in extending the scope of the ridicule should think deep within themselves.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The safety on our roads make this a major priority. Health of our people, a crucial necessity. Accidents happen when road users are either irresponsible or inconsiderate in one way or the other. Play your part. Reduce your speed. Be attentive. It is your personal responsibility. Let 2017 be the start of no more road fatalities. Be safe, be seen, be smart.
So let's wise up as a nation, get to your destination safe.
Welcome back. Anglican High School students had an opportunity to engage with the Minister for Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, Honorable Emmeline Pear, at the school this week, where the minister addressed several topics related to this year's Child Month theme, Keeping All Our Children Safe. Details from Annette Moore.
The minister spoke on child abuse and water, fire and internet safety, inclusive of children's rights and responsibilities.
One of the things that Grenada would have signed on to when it signed on to the Convention on the Rights of the Child is that of protection of our children.
Students enjoyed the interaction, answering questions and participating in the minister's presentation with youthful enthusiasm.
I think that one sounds familiar to you. So we know we cannot swim, but our friends can swim. And so we want to impress our friends, and we decide we're going to try to do what we are not able to do.
Apart from dangers resulting from the unsafe use of beaches and other areas for swimming and water sports, the minister cautioned students to pay attention to their home environment and to assist in making smart choices that will keep everyone safe, noting the tragic loss of lives in recent fires for the year 2018.
But then I would ask myself a question, who is really supposed to be protecting our children? I heard three very interesting answers, and I'm going to repeat them this morning. Right? I heard parents, I heard God, I heard a very interesting one. We are supposed to be protecting ourselves.
Speaking on internet safety, the minister advised students to be vigilant in spotting cyber criminals, of the importance of using social media responsibly, and the impact of one's social media presence on future job and other opportunities.
You don't want to live two lives. You want to live one life that is an open book, that anytime somebody reads that book, they can smile.
And of course, new developments in the struggle against sexual abuse were mentioned.
I say to you, be bold, be brave, and speak out. Say that for me. Be bold, be brave, and speak out. In case you are thinking that there is nobody that you can speak to, because you don't trust that they are going to be doing something or saying something, and you probably don't have the confidence in them, there is a new hotline. The number, and let me say it so everybody knows it after today. The number is 400.
Child Month activities continue with media appearances, Child Month marches, and more. Additional information can be obtained from the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, and from the various educational institutions.
On behalf of the principal, teachers, and students of the Anglican High School, I would like to say thank you for taking the time off from your schedule to come here and speak with us on child protection.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
That story just ended the National Report for today, Friday, October 5th, 2018. Now to recap the top story. Persons insisting on entering a polling booth with cellular phone or cameras on election day can now be charged or imprisoned. On behalf of all those who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis, saying thank you for viewing. Until Monday, have a safe weekend.
The CCJ will be a Caribbean court, reflective of Caribbean culture, Caribbean values, and everything Caribbean. I ask this question: which court do you think will adequately reflect the views of Caribbean people to those who worry? Will it be the Privy Council, persons in Britain, persons who have never lived in the Caribbean, persons who don't share our values, persons who don't understand what we stand for and what values we uphold? Or would it be our people who have grown among us, who live among us, who attend the churches we attend, who attend the schools we attend, who are members of the soccer teams that we are members of? Who best do you think will reflect us?
It's about time. It's long overdue. We should be there because, get out of the British thing, and so we are all one Caribbean, and I think that will be binding us more together.
Yours is yours. Privy Council is not ours. No matter what we do, what we say, no matter what ties we had to England, this is the time to keep divesting ourselves of those strings that tie us unnecessarily.
There's nothing in this bill for any partisan political party. Nothing. There's only one thing in this. It's for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and for the Caribbean region as a whole.
Justice has to be accessible, affordable, and swift.
This grand celebration, endless jubilation, when independence day comes around. We keep saying we are free to chant our own destiny. There's no more mother country. But don't care how we dance up in the street, our independence is not complete. So come let me rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. Caribbean people, this is another chance to advance towards total independence. Those who stripped our rights from we should never ever be in charge of our apex code. We have in the Caribbean men and women of distinction. So for the CCJ you must vote. Come let me rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. I know Marisha would have been proud to say, oh yeah, the CCJ on the way. Down with colonialism, that was the slogan, from Georgetown to Belmopan. We get legislature, executive power, beautiful flags and anthems. The judiciary, an important pillar, is still in the hands of the colonizer. So come let me rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. Caribbean people, this is another chance to advance towards total independence. Why should those who don't understand our customs and traditions be in charge of our apex code? We have in the Caribbean men and women of distinction. So for the CCJ we must vote. Come let me rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. I know that Williams would have been proud to say, oh yeah, the CCJ on the way.
And good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. My name is Sheldon Scott.
Yeah, I'm flying solo today. Yeah, well, not flying, and I actually kind of sit down. All you know, it does go sometime, yeah, but come let me rally around the CCJ.
It's the foundation of every independent nation.
We are live on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CR FM, 92.9 out there on the beautiful Sister Isles of Carriacou and Petite Martinique.
Testimony.
And then Brooklyn via 94.9. We started a little earlier than normal this morning. There was a special sitting of Parliament this morning.
Caribbean people, this is another chance to advance towards total independence. Those who held us in slavery should never ever be in charge of our event.
Let me do it early before I get in trouble, eh? Good morning to the staff out there at Paddy's Enterprises in Hillsborough, Carriacou. And because I didn't get any other name but Carol own still. Morning there, Carol. You see how trouble has started? Somebody on the staff, make sure you send me the name, the list of everybody name, eh? Right. 406-5422. WhatsApp it for me so I could have everybody name, eh? Because I ain't able. Right. Paddy's Enterprises out there in Carriacou. I might have to leave the mainland and go up to Carriacou just to check Paddy's, eh?
I know that.
See, there's some price on some weed eater and all kind of thing there and top quality, you know. No kind of bang and done, you know. Them thing and them look like it could be wrong when my grandchildren are grandchildren, boy. What?
I would have been proud to say, oh yeah, oh yeah.
So if you're in Carriacou, make sure you check out Paddy's Enterprises, eh? All right, Papa? All right, Mama? All right, nice, beautiful.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, the CCJ Advisory Committee. We were in the islands of Carriacou and Petite Martinique for the past few days. The majority of the team came down yesterday. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It was wonderful having the opportunity to speak to the people of Carriacou and Petite Martinique because, yeah, we got the opportunity to go on up to Petite Martinique and were able to speak with the folks, the wonderful folks up there. Listen now, folks, them people up in Carriacou and Petite Martinique set a kind of standard and all. You had to come good now, yeah. This Wednesday at the Wester Hall Secondary School, yes, St. David. Some people are Krong City. St. David is Krong Parish, right? So yeah, it's going to be taking place at the Wester Hall Secondary School. In fact, Prime Minister of Dominica, that's Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, he'll be here at the CCJ Advisory Committee forum that'll be taking place at the Wester Hall Secondary School from 6 p.m.
So come let me rally around the CCJ without delay.
Leader here alone, Hannah. Oh, you have a problem with the hair? The hair good, the hair day, worried about the hair.
People, this is another chance to
leave it.
Towards total independence.
Good morning to you, Chris and Lesanne and Hannah. I'm seeing all of you on the live. Folks, remember to like and share the live. Like and share the live. Yeah. Yeah. Like the thing and then share the thing up. Right? Like you see, I like it, you know, and I share it and thing. Right. Like and share the live.
Without delay, not tomorrow, but today. I know Mary Show would have been proud to say, oh yeah, oh yeah.
And it's been wonderful having that discussion with many people in relation to different aspects of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Yeah, quite a bit of misconceptions in relation to the entire issue out there. I've been glad to be part of the team that have been clearing up some of those misconceptions.
That was the slogan from Georgetown to Belmont. We get legislature, executive power.
Now, Grenada has filed its first case before the CCJ in its original jurisdiction. Now, The CCJ is one court that operates on two levels. There's the original jurisdiction, where they deal with issues that are related to CARICOM. So in other words, if you as a Grenadian were to be going down to Trinidad and you are unfairly treated by immigration and so on at the airport in Trinidad, yeah, or someone of the officials there like the police or whatever treat you unfairly, you can bring a case against the Trinidadian government through the Caribbean Court of Justice. Yeah? The same thing goes for if you have a business that is operating here in Grenada and you are attempting to sell your product in Trinidad, and CARICOM law says that you have to have an equal opportunity to do so, and Trinidad is preventing you from exporting to Trinidad, you can file a case in the original jurisdiction of the CCJ. But for criminal matters and so on, and some civil matters, those things that have nothing to do with the CARICOM agreements that have been signed by Grenada and other countries, those belong in the appellate jurisdiction. So Grenada cannot go to the appellate jurisdiction, but we can go to the original jurisdiction of the CCJ. Yeah? So come now, rally around the CCJ. Yeah? Nice. Yes. Okay.
We have in the Caribbean, men and women.
Remember to like and share the live.
For the CCJ, you must vote.
Our good friend Devon is not in with us this morning. And Nazi be here, but I ain't too sure long. Hanging around long, by you going just now? Yeah, Papa, we'll see you now.
I know Mary Show would have been proud to say, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yes, Hannah, I was in PD Martinique. Let me say good morning to all my friends up there in PD Martinique. Mama Jane, I hear you was babysitting, so you couldn't come down the road. Shoma, I don't see you.
Down with Colonel
Erica and Irina, right.
Logan, from Georgetown to Belmopan. We get legislature, executive power, beautiful flags and anthem.
And Daddy, blame Max on it. Max supposed to tell you I was coming. Max didn't tell you I'm coming. All right, nice. Don't blame me, blame Max.
So, come here, we rally around.
Max and Francis, good morning to you, my dear.
Not tomorrow, but today.
But somebody in Petit Martinique get married. Let me come and dance a cake or some kind of thing. Now, I'm telling you, somebody get married up there now.
To advance towards total independence. Why should those who don't understand our customs and traditions be in charge of our apex code? We have in the Caribbean men and women of distinction. So for the CCJ we must vote. Come let we rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. I know that Williams would have been proud to say, oh yeah, the CCJ only way.
Remember, it's coming up the 6th of November. You're going to have the opportunity to decide yay or nay. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh nay, oh nay.
Self-determination is the foundation of every independent.
For those of you looking for more information, you can check the CCJ Facebook page, CCJ Yes Grenada. You can check the CCJ Facebook page and the information that's coming up there. You see some of the live videos from some of the activities. And remember, this Wednesday at the Wester Hall Secondary School from 6 p.m., Prime Minister of Dominica has the CCJ as their final appellate court. They don't go to the Privy Council in Dominica. They go to the CCJ. So they have the CCJ as their final appellate court. There's a criminal matter, and sometimes in the lower courts you may find that a person may be sentenced and you think, okay, that's exorbitant. You sentence that person to 15 years, or you find, yeah, and the person decides that they're going, sometimes they're innocent, sometimes you didn't take the circumstances that the person got involved in that particular activity for. You didn't take it into consideration, and sometimes you get like a 15 and a 16 years, and they might be able to go and get it reduced. You understand? Might be a relative of yours. You never know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. This is it.
None of us plan we're going to court. None of us plan we're going to be arrested and all this sort of thing. So you never know. Could be somebody you know. Could be you. I want it to be you, eh? No, I hope it's not you. Not the listeners to Hard Talk. Good morning, Miss Bernice. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And Miss Clytie.
Proud to say, oh yeah, oh yeah. This is
Django, good morning, eh? At City Sound.
Joshua would have been proud to say, oh yeah, oh yeah. This is the only way.
So this morning, we've had the Parliament sitting, the Senate sitting, and on Friday, there was also another Senate sitting where the bill that amended the electoral law was brought before the House of Representatives and now the Senate, and various aspects of that. For instance, the fee now, when you're paying that fee to become a candidate, you now have to pay $500 instead of $300. I've been hearing discussions where some people are saying, well, it should be a lot more. And I'm also hearing discussions where some people are saying it should be nothing at all. If you left it up to me, 15 seats in Parliament, I would have made it $15,000 to register. Yeah, that would have kind of feather out some of the kind of people who just coming up there and at the end of the day, I mean, just wasting time and paper if you ask me. Yeah? I mean, yes, they have a right to put themselves forward for election, but if you can't raise $15,000 to apply to run for a seat, then Papayo, I ain't think I want you as my representative. Yeah. You should be at least able to raise that. If you can't raise that, I ain't expect you to raise the $2 to $3 billion you might have to raise for Grenada. Yeah, if you can't raise 15,000, I can't trust you. So I might say raise it to 15. You never know.
I'm waiting for me chance to get to this center. The bass drum start to beat, and then the control slam.
Another part that was amended dealt with the issue of going with mobile phones into polling booths. Yeah. And some people have been saying that they don't truly understand why. They neither here nor there on that one. Why would you pass an act that bans the use of cell phones inside of polling booths?
You know the people they want to stop.
Well, I'll tell you why.
I see a woman.
It stops corruption. It stops people attempting to steal elections. And you're there and you're wondering, but how could somebody go with a cell phone in a polling booth stop somebody from attempting to steal an election? Well, the amendment was made due to activities that happened in another Caribbean country and also some countries further afield. Yeah. What was happening was that particular political candidates in certain African countries, for instance, were telling the persons, you go inside with your cell phone, they're going to pay you to vote for them. So they were giving the people money to cast a vote for them. But they would only pay the person the money if the person was able to prove that they voted for them. So individuals were going into the polling stations in that African country with their cell phone, and when they go into that country, into that polling station with the cell phone, and they vote for that person, they would take a picture of it with their cell phone, bring the picture out, and collect their money. That is what was happening in an African country. So to avoid the same thing happening here, it was decided that you cannot enter the poll booth itself with your mobile phone. I think it allows you to enter the poll station, but not the polling booth with that or any other electronic device. Yeah? So that is why it was done. Some people are saying, well, me ain't care, or if you go with your cell phone, that ain't not. No, this is what was being done, and it can affect the outcome of an election. Imagine somebody with a pile of money and decide now that they're going to pay off, let's say they pay off 100, 200 people to vote for a particular party or a particular candidate. So each person that goes in with their cell phone, they make their mark on the ballot paper, they take the picture with their cell phone, they come out, they check the person, they show them, look, I cast the ballot for you, and then they collect their money. So to avoid fraud in the system, that is why that particular part was put inside there. Because I heard some people, they wonder and all kind of thing, and that is a waste of time. And so no, there is a very, very serious reason. So it's not just craziness. And then the suggestions that were placed in, amended into this one, they were made by the Parliamentary Electoral Office. Yeah? Some of them were based on recommendations from some of the committees that passed by during general elections and so on, and other observations. So these were amended. So it was amended in the House of Representatives on Friday, and today the Senate would have sat. They had a very short sitting. In fact, they started about 9, and by the time 10 o'clock, they were totally complete. Yeah, they just they dealt with that one bill. So that has now been passed. Yeah, so it just has to go now. It has to be published in the Gazette. Yeah, the Gazette. So it's going to be gazetted, published in the Gazette, and then it has to be signed into law by the Governor General. Yeah.
This time a woman going in the ring, and she start to do she thing.
Brother and Sister Scott, good morning to both of you. Haven't heard from you all for quite a long time. Hope that you all are very well. Bonston, good morning to you. Nazim, we didn't see Bonfield, but like Bonfield travel. I ain't find we see Bonfield no way. Yeah, I ain't see Bonfield.
You know the people they want to stop.
Or was it that since he eat Makukuri last time, Bonfield hiding? I feel it might be that, you know. Yeah, I ain't see Bonfield.
Suddenly our voice started getting loud. The basement saw the...
Curtis, sorry I didn't get a chance to run up and see you, but I hear sneak passing up the left, right, and center me. Yes, folks, so amendments done to the Electoral Act, and there'll be more that will be done over the years. And so every now and again, it's a developing thing. So from time to time, you would have different things that come up and they are addressed. 440-7377. There's 440-7377. If one more person send this stupidness to me about somebody clone my account, watch. I'll start blocking all you know, right? Folks, not because somebody sent it to you on Facebook and say share, mean you should share. Have some common sense. Read the thing. Yeah, you know you ain't get no second friend request from me. But you're fooling up people inbox with a certain message about you get a second. You did not get a second friend request. Why are you lying? Why are you committing a sin? To please who? Good morning to you, Linda. How are you doing this morning? Gustin, morning, sir.
This whole experience had me intrigued. I can't believe the act that I come to see. This little island have a rich history. Sugar Adams once ruled the show. You got and Django follow. Right now it's Flurry, Jack and Loxin. All these men rule the ring. Tell me ho. I said I wanna never see tell me ho. I tell me ho. Do you think I Jama? Tell me ho. I said I wanna never see tell me ho. I tell me ho. Nah, yo, Viola.
Four 440-7377, also 347-329-3101. We do realize, though, that those of you on the 97.5 frequency are not getting the usual strength. They're still not up to 100% since that last, the lightning strike the other day. they are not right back up to where they need to be. But you know, CRFM and the other stations, we there. You understand? Good morning, bro. Hinkson, good morning to you. Leslie, good morning to you and to Richard as well. Yes, indeedy. So yeah, all you call me, tell me what else happening. Yeah, my partner up in St. Patrick, I know you ain't get back your cow yet. I know that, yeah. That much I know. I know you ain't get back your cow yet. That much I do know. Right? Good. So for those of you outside of Grenada, 347-329-3101. And for those of you in Grenada, 440-7377. I'm trying to get an update on the art piece, whether they're open today or at least the amount of people that they've seen while they've been here. Also, there have been a significant amount of rumors going around about some set of naval vessels outside of Grenada. Folks, not everything, and I've said it so many times, not everything somebody sends to you on WhatsApp or everything that you see posted to social media, be it Facebook or Instagram or so, is true. Or even YouTube. Yeah, there are people, and let me explain what happens here to you, because some people are being taken in by individuals that are simply in this for money, and by others that are out there to create fear, and some people that are downright just crazy. Yeah, and sometimes it's a combination of all three, or a combination of any two. So there is a video that has been circulating speaking, first of all, it was supposed to be a Chinese armada, a ships that was outside between Grenada, outside in Grenadian waters, between Grenada and St. Vincent. And it was an invasion set of ships, some 20-something ships they're looking to invade. I don't know where the Chinese would have been going to invade. Next thing now, it ended up being an American armada ships, and they're looking to invade Venezuela and all this sort of nonsense. But folks, the vessels that they're speaking about is tuna boats, you know. A set of tuna vessels that out there. Some of them may be fishing in Grenadian waters illegally because there's a tuna bank. So some of them may be fishing in Grenadian waters illegally, and therefore they turn off their identity code. The thing that gives their identity to say this is this vessel, they turn it off. They leave on their GPS so you know that there's a vessel there. So in case something passes, they don't run into them. And in case they end up in trouble, at least the location of a vessel without even a name is known if they send out a distress signal. So they appear as unidentified. That doesn't mean they're military vessels. But left, right, and center, people sending messages about, oh, there's a set of boats out there and they're going to invade. Invade where? Not because we're in October. A set of people sending messages. Think before you forward stuff, people. Think before you forward stuff. Not because a Caucasian chap somewhere in the US creates a video and puts it on Facebook or puts it on YouTube means it's true. Not because it's on social media means it's true. And literally thousands of you been sending this thing all over, frightening your family in the United States, scaring the bejeebers out of your family out there in Canada and the UK and other countries with this nonsense. And you know what's been happening? Bit by bit, the fella's been turning on their identity locators, so you're realizing now is fishing boat and them out there. And pleasure craft. You think you have a set of military vessels there, and in and between you have the car boat passing, you have fishing boat passing, you have yacht passing, everything passing in and between. I have a set of military vessels out there. It is not true. Yeah, and you should not wait for me to come and tell you that on here. Some things you could just basically know from the inception it's not true. Alright, so remember, I continue to tell you all, over 80%. Let's put a figure these days because Facebook has been doing a little cleaning up and so. So close to 80% of what you see on Facebook is not true. It's not real. Some of it is staged. Some of it is not real at all. Close to 80% of the stuff that comes across your news feed on Facebook is not true. The information cannot be trusted. The sources cannot be trusted. Yeah? You're more likely to have correct information from a proper news source. So if you see a story, it's always good to check what the source of the story is. Is it the BBC? You may not trust the BBC, but they still have a reputation. They ain't going and publish a false story unless it's April 1st. Yeah, April 1st they might publish a false story and then say, all fools. But other than that, they're not going to publish a false story. So if you see it on the BBC, you could pretty well say, yeah, well, that actually happened. Or you see it on CNN. Even Fox News, they may have their bias when it comes to politics, but they will not publish a story like that and damage their reputation. So you check to see if it's one of these things, the Washington Post, you check to see if it's one of those. Not the Onion. The Onion puts out satire, and sometimes it's good if you see it's a news site that you're not accustomed to, not one of the known news sources. You need to check that out to see if it's a satirical site. There are sites that put out all sorts of weird things, like alien life form found on Granans Beach. And you would see that story on Facebook, and some people would actually start sharing it. We have a caller online. Good morning.
Yes, Sheldon. Good morning to you.
Morning, sir.
Now, is it November 6th is the referendum vote?
Yes, that's the day.
Yeah, well, I can't vote in two elections at the same time.
Yeah, I know the U.S. has an election at that time, and Antigua and Barbuda also has their CCJ referendum at that time. You have midterms in the U.S., innit?
Yeah. So, but I hope that Grenadians turn out in their numbers and vote to support the CCJ as our final appellate court. That would be a wise decision for us as a nation. So I think we should come out and vote. And I wanted to mention something. I think that before our police do certain things, they should come out and educate the public. Because I was looking, I think it was a week or so back, an early morning, drivers see this strange line in the road, and they were wondering what the line is for, and then the police had to explain what it's for. We have GBN, we have MTV, they even come on your program from time to time. They should, in advance, explain to the public, and this is what you're going to see in a particular location at a particular time.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there, my brother. No, the police don't have to do that in that sense. When you write your theoretical exam for a driver's license, you are supposed to know what those lines mean. That is the reason you write a theoretical exam before you do the practical exam for a driver's license. No, they don't have to tell people that. People are supposed to know.
Okay, well listen, there are some signs.
It's not a new type of sign, you know. It's in the highway code. It's not a new sign.
There are signs that you would have and signs that you don't have in one country to the other, and that's a fact, Sheldon.
Listen, the signs that you're speaking about are in the highway code.
Well, I don't know that because I never use the highway code.
Right, so in your case, you don't know, but they are supposed to know.
But the police was explaining to the people on the television what the sign means.
Yeah, they did afterwards. They did afterwards, but the people supposed to know.
But the police said that was some international sign and whatever. But he was explaining what the sign was.
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying,
explaining what the sign was.
I'm saying yes, but
that was a new thing.
What you're saying is that they should have come out before and say so. No, you're supposed to know the highway code
in advance.
You're supposed to know the highway code.
Yes, but Sheldon, you can't just put things like that just so all of a sudden and then people.
It's not all of a sudden. It's in the highway code. That's why I'm saying it's not all of a sudden. It's in the highway code.
But okay, so if you're saying it's in the highway code, it was never marked on the ground from ever since. But still, educate the people. We are going to be putting this sign at this particular location, so look out for this sign. that is straightforward.
My brother, if that's your view, no problem.
Pedestrian crossing, people supposed to be notified before. That's what I think. I could be wrong.
You ever heard the term that
is important?
You ever heard the term ignorance of the law is no excuse?
Yes, but that's
all right. As long as you know that term, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yeah, it's in the highway code, my brother. Mm-hmm.
No, but it's good to be. Oh, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I've been looking on the Grenadian website, the government of Grenadian website, and I'm not seeing our laws on the website. I can't find it, and I think that
laws.gov.gd. Laws.gov.gd. That's the site that you go to get the laws of Grenada. They haven't been updated for a little while. They need to be updated, but laws, laws.gov.gd. And let me just click to make sure the link is working, and it's working perfectly. So it's all there. Whether it's the criminal code.
I went directly to the government of Grenada site, gov.gd, and I'm not seeing it. So at least you say that, so I know. And that's something that, because I think as Grenadians, we should be able to know the laws. We should be able to read the laws, to know the laws, so that we know how to defend ourselves in any particular situation or what. So at least you say, is there? I am going to check it myself to confirm that it's there.
Well, I just opened it, so I know it's there. Laws, laws.gov.gd. Because I even have it saved. I have it saved as I have it saved in my, what you call it, at the top of your screen. I have it saved, so I use it all the time. So it's there.
All right.
I just clicked on it and it's working. Laws, they're not law. Okay. Laws.gov.gd.
All right.
Yeah, and as I said, it hasn't been updated for a little while. The subsections need to be updated. There are one or two broken links. It was part of a project that was done a few years ago, and the laws of Grenada were placed there. But we have some amendments that have been made that have not been addressed in this document yet. And sometimes you also have to realize that there might be a particular law, and there may have been recent amendments to it. Like, for instance, if you look at the electoral law now, there have just been some amendments to it. That isn't reflected in what is there yet. But it's still a wonderful source for getting the basis of Grenadian law.
All right.
Also, the Government of Grenada website was down for a couple of weeks. They were doing some work on it, some reconstructive work on it. So I am not sure if they inadvertently left out that page or what, but it does exist as a separate something. Yeah, so you could look and you'll get it.
All right.
Okay, bro.
Right.
Blessings.
So again, the most important thing is that I hope more Grenadians come out. I would not be in Grenada, but I hope more Grenadians come out and vote to support the referendum on November 6th. So have a good day, Sheldon.
All right, bro. Blessings. All right, man.
All right.
Yeah, strange enough, Grenada is having our referendum on the same day that Antigua Barbuda is having their referendum as well, and on the same day as the U.S. midterm elections. November 6th is the date that the U.S. are having their midterm elections, yeah? So there are three sets of people that are doing things at the same time, you know? Right. And I've just gotten this update from NADMA. It's an update on students in Cuba. Hurricane Michael, as we know, Hurricane Michael is heading to Cuba. Miramar, Havana, Cuba. Monday, the 8th of October. Hurricane Michael is expected to bring heavy rains and winds to the province of Pinar del Rio and to a lesser extent the capital, Havana. The ambassador, Her Excellency Clarice Charles, has been and continues to be in direct contact with our students. All are safe and have been advised to take the necessary precautions and to follow the warnings as given by the competent authorities. The embassy will continue to monitor the situation as the hurricane progresses and advises accordingly. Yeah? So there, just an update there. So far, Grenadian students, they're safe, and they're just making sure that they let you know that. All right? We have a caller.
Good morning, Sheldon. Hello.
I'm quite fine. How are you doing?
Well, Brother Sheldon, I want to say thanks to the people of Happy Hill, Moline, who came out last Thursday to hear from our parliamentary Honorable Dr. Kit Mitchell. We had a meeting at the Happy Secondary School. It was very successful. And the people hear about the plan and development that Dr. Mitchell has for the St. George Northwest, and everyone at that meeting, Brother Sheldon, was proud of the achievement so far and the plan that he has for the development of St. George Northwest. Alright, the people feel happy. They hear about the plans and the development, and everyone left the meeting with a joy, with a gladness in the heart. Alright, because at that meeting we have Honorable Peter David and Senator Williams, who spoke on different topics. Senator Williams spoke about the CCJ, Honorable Peter spoke about labor, and Dr. Mitchell spoke about the economy, right, and the achievement of the party so far. Right? And Brother Sheldon, I want to say the CCJ is the way to go. Right? The CCJ coming on stream, and as our final quote, we'll make it a level playing field for all. Right? I plead into Greenlands. Let us all come out and vote strongly for the CCJ, which will bring a joy and make it be a level playing field for each and every one of us who have access to the CCJ. But Brother Sheldon, you have a wonderful day. God bless you. I thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much. And I'll be giving the schedule for the meetings that the different members of parliament are having. I'll give you the schedule for that in a little while. So remember, this Wednesday from 6 p.m., the CCJ Advisory Committee invites all to the St. David Parish Forum. That's going to be taking place at the Wester Hall Secondary School. They come here and share about the making the Caribbean Court of Justice, Grenada's final court of appeal.
When independence they comes around.
Break the chains of colonialism for one united Caribbean. And the feature address will be by Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honorable Roosevelt Scott. There'll also be presentations by various other speakers, question and answer, live entertainment, all kind of things.
So come let me rally around the seas.
You can find out more on Facebook at CCJ Grenada, Instagram at CCJ Grenada, and Twitter at CCJ Grenada as well.
This is another chance to advance towards total independence. Those who stripped our rights from we should never ever be in charge of our apex score.
440-7377.
We have in the Caribbean men and women of distinction. So for the CCJ you must vote. Come let me rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. I know Marisho would have been proud to say, oh yeah, the CCJ.
Yes, so the meeting scheduled for this week. St. Andrew Northwest, that's the territory of the Honorable Delma Thomas. She'll be at the Byland School. That will be tomorrow from 6 p.m. St. George Southeast and St. George South, they'll be having a joint meeting at the Springs Government School. That's the Honorable Gregory Boyne and the Honorable Nicholas Steele. So the Springs Government School from 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Beautiful flags and anthems.
St. Mark by Beverly Shop in Duquesne, the Honorable Clarice Modest. She and her team will be up there in St. Mark tomorrow from 6 p.m. by Beverly Shop in Duquesne.
Without delay, not tomorrow, but today. Caribbean people, this is another chance to.
On Wednesday, those of you in St. John, in the Florida area, the Florida Government School will be your location. The Honorable Alvin Dabrio and his team will be out there.
We are in the Caribbean.
St. Patrick West, the Honorable Anthony Boson, he'll be at Hermitage Government School on Wednesday. And St. George Northwest and St. George Northeast.
Without delay.
Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Claudius Mitchell and the Honorable Tobias Clement. They'll be at the New Hampshire Community Center from 6 p.m.
Oh yeah.
So on Wednesday, St. John, That's at the Florida Government School, St. Patrick West at the Hermitage Government School, and St. George Northwest and St. George Northeast at the New Hampshire Community Center. On Friday, St. Andrew Northwest. That's again the Honorable Delma Thomas. She'll be at the Mount Horn Community Center. And St. George Southeast, the Honorable Gregory Bowen. He'll be at the Bocas Petersfield. Yeah, right around by Brian Worm there. Right, nice.
To build strong institutions, CDB, ACCB.
So continue to give you the information.
I quite clearly testimony. Come let me rally around the CCJ.
I'm not sure if we'll be having post cab in the morning.
Caribbean people, this is another chance.
So we may be starting hard talk straight from 10 in the morning, eh? Most likely. I kind of like 85% sure. I'll even a look at 15 inside. You know, I like that number 15.
We are in the Caribbean.
Yeah, leaving that inside because they just might have. But as far as I know so far, no post cab.
Around the CCJ. Without delay.
Maybe by the end of the day I might get a note saying otherwise, but for now, nah.
I know that Manley would have been proud to say, oh yeah. Oh.
For those of you trying to get through on the overseas line, I'm so sorry. Didn't realize I still had it engaged. So again, the local number 4407377, and those of you outside of Grenada 347-329-3101.
I know that Bradshaw would have been proud to say, oh yeah, this is CJ only way. I know that Joshua would have been proud to say, oh yeah, this is CJ only way. I know that Bogle would have been proud to say, oh yeah, this is CJ only way. I know that Gabby would have been proud to say, oh yeah, this is CJ only.
Folks, I'm just trying to contact my good friend Kevil because I want to get some information as to what's the latest with the boat and that kind of thing, you understand? Yeah, just in case you might have the opportunity to go still. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, this is CJ only.
But again, for those of you that may just be joining the program, there is no invasion fleet off of Grenadian waters. There is no. Don't panic. Don't head for the hills. Don't start digging a bunker. Don't start trying to book a flight to head out of Grenada. No. And we have to be careful because when we spread that type of information, we are actually damaging our tourism product. There may be people that are out there that would have booked their flight and wanted to come to Grenada, but hearing that sort of thing may decide they're not going into what seems to be an active war zone. So we have to be careful about protecting the image of Grenada when we start circulating these things. Because remember, we might be thinking it's circulating just among us Grenadians, but it ends up in a lot of other people's hands. And so far, you're going to tell me that there's this kind of thing out there. Let's just look at it from this standpoint. Even if that was there, you think with all the fishermen with mobile phones, all the pilots flying over there all the time with SVG Air, Liat, all this sort of thing, nobody would have taken a picture so far and say that this is out there? Don't be fooled by the picture you're seeing at the top of the thing. That is not a picture of anything happening in Grenadian waters. That picture is a picture that has been lifted off of the internet. It is not a picture of any vessels out in Grenadian waters. There are people spreading this thing about invasion force outside of Grenada because some guy in the States put up a video. Is that such a tuna boat? There's a tuna bank. That is where people just go. Them people from Petit Martinique could tell you that. And from Carriacou, and even them fellas from go up days where they just go to go and get tuna. You go and do your long line fishing and thing in that area. And it may have some fellas who they illegally. And therefore they have off certain things on their boat. So they put on what they had to put on so that you could see that the boat is there, but they wouldn't identify themselves. So the satellite would know that there's a boat there, and therefore when the car boat pass through, as it pass through that same area, or the pleasure craft, them yachts and different things pass through, or some of the genuine fishing boats that have the right to be there pass through, they have on their thing and you could know that they are there. But you also know that the other boats are there as well. So there's no invasion force outside of Grenada. Please, let's dispel that nonsense right now. There is no invasion force outside of Grenada. All right? Bunch of tuna boat the people see and come in and talk us that stupidness. All right? 4407377. Set a tuna boat. Yeah, invasion of tuna. Some people putting this thing up on Facebook, some of these people, and them sending this thing via WhatsApp and all kind of thing. No, it's not true. It's not real. Oh, God. Not wanting to have to use some of his words, but fake news.
It's grand celebration, endless jubilation, when Independence Day comes around. We keep saying we are free to change our own destiny. It's
not just for those of you, I spoke about it before, but that's just for some of you that may have just joined.
Yeah, how we dance up in the street. Our independence is not complete. So come let me rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today.
And folks, we're going to have someone in from the CCJ advisory. No, not me. Somebody else from the CCJ Advisory Committee is going to be in with us this week. At Wednesday, Thursday.
Those who stripped our rights from we should never ever be in charge of our...
I hope as many of you as possible, though, made use of the Chinese military vessel that is here. I hope that you made use of it, yeah? As I said, I'm not sure if it's still operating for today.
We rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. I know Marisha would have been proud to say, oh yeah, oh yeah. This is CJ on the way. Down with colonialism, that was the slogan from Georgetown to Belmopan. We get legislature, executive power, beautiful flags and anthems. The judiciary, an important pillar, is still in the hands of the colonizer. So come let we rally around the CCJ without delay. Not tomorrow, but today. Caribbean people, this is another chance to advance towards total independence.
Yes, indeed, folks. I have on the line with me Mr. Keville Frederick. Good morning again, Keville.
Morning, Sheldon. How are you?
Hey, I'm more than fine, man. Fine. Watch, you're so fine you could pass me through a sieve.
By the way, Sheldon, I was expecting you to be on the boat as we had spoken, but
yeah.
I didn't see you come through. I wonder why now.
No, I had to head up to Carriacou. So I had to sacrifice one for the other. So I was in Carriacou over the past few days, so I did not get the opportunity to come myself.
Oh, well, I would say you missed a golden opportunity,
Yeah,
to be there.
Believe me, I know I did, eh?
But, I mean, in any event, we had quite a successful run this time. And I think the Grenadian people would be happy to know that, their Ministry of Health, and more so to our Foreign Affairs Minister, our Health Minister, and I would say the government of Grenada did an excellent job in lobbying our resident Chinese ambassador and the People's Republic of China, to have that ship return to Grenada. The only country in the world where a ship visited twice in less than 5 years. right? I mean, save and except like, there is some kind of catastrophe, maybe, or some disaster or war, but Grenada has been blessed, and so they visited Grenada in a short space of time, and I can tell you the Chinese were very, very satisfied with the operations, the logistics and so on that were in place to facilitate this visit. So, we are proud. We don't often blow our trumpets, because we are in the business of providing services to our people. But Sheldon, let me tell you, so by Friday, because that's the statistics I can give you now. We are going to give you maybe by tomorrow, or Wednesday, the final count. But on Friday, by mid-afternoon on Friday, we had seen on board, right, over 1,500 people. And I'm being really conservative here. Now, when we did our last check Friday night, so if you remember, I said by midday, right? So that was from one data sheet that we had analyzed. By the time we analyzed all 4 stations that we had done at a cruise ship, the number had risen to over 4,500, because the ambassador was able to make reference of that in a deck reception that was held on board the hospital ship on Friday night. So by midday to around 2 o'clock, our media people got the benefit of a tour, and in doing so, the ambassador could have just tell you, from one station, that's what he has. And by 7 o'clock, after 8 the night, when it was time for the reception, after we would have collated all of our data so far, that was on Friday, right? It was over 4,000 people. Now, we had seen, in terms of X-rays, CT scans and so on, 1,437.
Wow.
Right? And up until that, 13 operations were lined up, and they had already completed. So it just tells you how successful, right, the mission has been. And I could also go a step further in telling you that we are looking now to do a comparative analysis to show, in terms of real benefits, right, cost, as well as how significantly we were able to bring down the hospital waiting list for surgeries and so on. I mean, that in and of itself is phenomenal.
I know, Kevin, that there are many ladies on the island that have been going through different gynecological problems. I know the last time around, there was a significant number of females going there just for that area, gynecology. Do you notice anything like that this time around?
Yes, we had. There were oversubscription for a number of medical disciplines. Gynae was one of them, right? Likewise, dental. And to complement that, I must say too that we just recently conducted a dental outreach up at Guam, and we had seen a number of kids, likewise from the Concord, Branoy, Florida, and so on areas. We had seen quite a number of kids. In fact, some children from St. George's also came up to access services in that mission. So it was not surprising to me, that people would capitalize on dental, because we have been saying consistently that the mouth is the gateway to good health. So people taking advantage of that and making sure, that, they capitalize on all of the services that were available. So we had seen oversubscription for dental, subscription for ophthalmology, which is eye care, and also gynae. A lot of people, ladies, were interested in gynae. Sheldon, let me tell you something. What was mind-blowing is that, Grenadians really, really, really appreciated the services that were given to them. And I could tell you that because a number of interviews were done on board, right? And they were very, very much grateful and hooking up the Chinese, taking photos and so on. They thanked the ministry and government, for lobbying the Chinese to return. I mean, we have it on tape, so nothing like, where I'm just saying that, right? So it's something that we can be proud of as a people to say, hey, you know what, our government has really, gone the extra mile to really bring that kind of services, to us. I mean, and we must show appreciation for it. Likewise, I can tell you, Carriacou and PD Martinique, they too had their fair share. And the ministers from that area, she did a wonderful job, in mobilizing. Because I can tell you, Sheldon, even before the Chinese touched down in Carriacou, right? And kudos to the minister's office and her team. She had given instructions for her people to make arrangements. That is while the ministry was making arrangements, okay, and we had successfully completed that. Still, the Minister for Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs, gave instructions to her team to ensure that accommodation and everything else, all of the logistics were in place to accommodate the Chinese so that they can provide services. And this is wonderful. It speaks about the collaboration between ministries and ministers and understanding how important it is for constituents to benefit from such services. I mean, I was really, really moved by that. And I want to really take this opportunity to thank the minister personally, as well as to big up and thank her entire staff in Carriacou and Pitman for such a wonderful job.
And I can tell you this, Kevin, I came up on the Osprey shuttle at the same time as the medical team, and they did not spend as long as 10-15 minutes at the Carriacou port before they were whisked away to their different locations.
I'm telling you.
They got up there, and in fact, the boat came in for the first time. The Osprey would have came in. I didn't even plan it, but it just happened that way. That ended up on the Osprey for the first time that it docked at the new Harvey Vale jetty.
Right.
And we were able to dock there, the first set of people to dock there. And the Chinese didn't have to spend long there. And by the time they came off, they take off the stuff. They took a couple photographs, and by the time you turn around, they was gone.
They were gone.
The ministry was there to pick them up and everything. So the Carriacou people had their stuff really organized.
Yeah. And Sean, the police officers, the police who worked at the cruise terminal, Mr. Don McKenzie, and I think his inspector or ASP or superintendent Stafford. I'm not sure of his rank, so I don't want to get it wrong, but I would say Mr. Stafford, Sergeant Royo and the other corporal, all of those guys, the female officers, the male officers, all of them, they were very, very much supportive. They helped maintain the law and order there, and everything just went smoothly as compared to 3 years ago. And I think it all speaks to the pre-planning, and meetings and so on, and walkthroughs and everything. So everybody was on board. I mean, it was just so smooth that even the Chinese had, and the Chinese said it, that this is the only country they have been to so far, right? Yeah, where it is well organized, from walk-ins to screening to referrals and everything. The exit gates were clearly labeled, entrance were clearly labeled, so people have no problem getting there. I mean, for me, it was another learning experience, and we saw it that way too. But really and truly, we were happy that everybody who came there could have received some form of service. There were even people who went on the ship just to actually see it. I have something I want to really share. most people may not believe in Chinese traditional medicine, but I saw something on Saturday, and then yesterday a lady walked through. So there is a lady in Grenada who practices acupuncture and so on. Mm-hmm. And I witnessed on Saturday an elderly lady came in with very high blood pressure. It was like a walk-in time bomb at the youth center. Her readings were the top. We call it to be about 200 and about 13 somewhere there. But the Chinese expert, he pricked her ear, squeezed some of the blood out. Then he used the traditional Chinese medicine stuff. He rubbed it, and he placed 3 little patches on her ear and had her sit for like about 5 minutes, Sheldon. And within that space of time, and if you don't believe me, ask my PS. She witnessed that as well. I even have photographs of it. How that the top came down to about 101, somewhere there about. That is no joke. I am not exaggerating that. And then Dr. Martin backed it up by saying that, look, he just met this lady who is, who practices rather, acupuncture in Grenada, and she showed him a diagram. And I guess people could actually go on YouTube and so on and look at it for themselves. You know, because I saw police officers and so on getting the benefits of traditional Chinese medicine. I saw other people who came there for that specifically because they have seen, you know, how the Chinese live, and it's been talked. Well, I'm spoken about rather. I mean, all over the world, right? And that's the kind of exchange that we wanted. And our Grenadian people, they also benefited from that because people didn't just go for services, but they went to learn about Chinese medicine and how can they, you know, benefit from such intervention. So all it was a really, really successful mission this time around. Sheldon, they were even able to actually diagnose, you know, a patient on board with lymphoma.
Mm.
You know, I mean, and so, little man.
And that's an important diagnosis to make, huh?
This is so important because
very
now,
important
that
diagnosis.
Patient don't have to wait. You know, that patient don't have to, wonder where he or she is getting money from to go and, do X and Y tests to find out what is wrong. No, that patient can now jump straight into recovery, treatment and so on. And that's the kind of stories that you really hear, from people. I have seen a guy who got some facial reconstruction and things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just unbelievable, but those stories would be told, I guess, by the individuals themselves, when they sit with their friends, and relatives and so on. But I'm telling you, if their shape could have stayed longer, many people would still be going. Because this morning I had a call from Shani asking if people can still access services. And just a short while ago, some people were calling asking, if it can. But unfortunately, it ended yesterday. As I said, yesterday was oversubscribed. We normally shut off data Sheldon at 11:30 and at 11:15, at 10:15, sorry. We had to close because the Chinese they have too many people on board. They're accessing services like crazy. I mean, because they were surprised, right? That for a Sunday, it would have been, a smaller crowd, but that wasn't the case at all. The people just flooded there, and so happy when people can access medical services because we understand as a government and people, we understand as a ministry the importance of having good health care, and so we spared no effort in welcoming them when they offered assistance a second time around.
Wonderful. And you never know, we might be lucky, we might get it again.
Well, I hope so. I really hope so. So if I could just recap again, for the benefit of the public, some of the numbers that we have seen. So when you hear people talking, tell them that's not so. Because it was very, very successful. CT scans, MRIs, X-rays combined, it was over 1,437 operations, and I'm talking about that was. So what I'm relating here was Friday's statistics,
Mm-hmm.
By
That's not Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, mid-afternoon Friday statistics. Total admissions, that's in general, was over 4,500. Right? They had 38 physical exams done. A combination of 1,437 X-ray, CTs, and MRIs. They had already had 10 operations scheduled, and 7 were completed by then. And interestingly, people who overnighted on the boat for operations, their loved ones, their next of kin, they were allowed to accompany them. They were given showering facilities, sleeping facilities, meals. So that was also taken care of, and a lot of people expressed how happy they were to spend, the night on the ship with their relatives.
Wonderful. Kevin, we'd like to thank you for taking your time out. I know right now you're down in the documents trying to put everything together. So I'd like to thank you so very much for taking the time to be here with us. And as usual, problem, feel free, bro. The door always open to you. The phone line always open to you.
Of course.
Call us at any point in time. All right.
No problem.
Thank you, and keep up the good job.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes, folks, we were speaking to Mr. Kevin Frederick at the Ministry of Health there, getting some information in relation to the Oct piece. Yeah. So close to 4,000 people, well, would have passed that. That was up to Friday. Yeah, that received various degrees of medical assistance on the vessel. Yeah, and everything from doing CT scans and so on to acupuncture. Yeah, so folks got a lot of stuff done there, but yeah, boy, sometimes you had to give up one for the other, and I wasn't able to make it to the vessel. Yeah, I couldn't go. And yesterday I was just way, yeah. Yeah. 440-7377. Augustine, you're asking if that was sick or just preventative measure. Both, a mixture of both. Actually, you had people that went there that may have suspected something, so they went. And you had people that had existing conditions and they went there and so on. Yeah, and people who you're feeling well and okay and everything, and you went. Because there are many people over the past few years, and so of people who they're healthy, they're up and down, they look healthy, they seem healthy, they're up and down and they're about and everything, and all of a sudden you just wake and you hear, whoops, they're gone. Yeah, I had a good friend that used to exercise every single day. Early in the morning, they go running and exercising and everything. And during the day, they watch where they eat and all kind of thing. And notice I say I had them. Because they still had another condition. Because even though you're doing all of that, and you're not doing your tests and you're not doing your checking with the doctor and so on, as much as you exercise and you're eating well and so on, if you don't combine that with also checking a doctor and that every so often, whether it's every 4 months, every 6 months, whatever it is, if you don't combine that with checking your doctor, you will not pick up on certain conditions. And as healthy as you may seem, yeah, you could find yourself having to visit my good friends at Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Yeah, so you have to be very careful. 440-7377, that's 44073. Good morning to you, Lulu. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Genevieve, good morning to you. Hey, Pedro, morning, sir. Hope you're having a wonderful morning this morning. And Linda Imelda Francois, good morning to you as well. I hope all of you are having a wonderful morning this morning. Yeah.
There's no more country.
So some 4,000 people are accessing medical services via the Oct piece, yeah? Not including yours truly. Yeah.
Come let me rally around the CCJ without delay.
Good morning to the folks out there at Gentle Dental Care. Hope that you all are having a wonderful day today. And let me shout out Paddy's Enterprise again. in case they come in late. Let me shout out the folks out there at Paddy's Enterprise. From manager to every member of staff at Paddy's Enterprise. Right? I'm making sure. Because next thing you know, I end up in trouble. I want to go and next thing I can't call anybody else's name because I don't know the rest of people's name. All I know is one name. And you understand? So let me see and let me see if I get a message from them. Hey, watch, I get it, man. Yeah, I didn't check the phone. All right, so Serrana, Richard, Carol, Corona, Doreen, Agnes, Dion, Sybil, Romella, Delroy, Teron, Andrew, Sherlan, and Winston. All of you out there at Paddy's Enterprise, a glorious Grenadian good morning to each and every one of you. All you realize Devon in there, so I can't do what I tell all you I go do. I'm waiting until when he come in studio and we go deal with him, right? We go deal with him. Hugh, good morning to you. Nice. So again, Paddy staff, Serrana, Richard, Carol, Corona, Doreen, Agnes, Dion, Sybil, Romella, Delroy, Teron, Andrew, Sherlan, and Winston. The whole Paddy's crew. Yeah. Let me go to the phone line. Good morning. Good morning, Cammy.
Morning, Sheldon Scott.
How are you?
How you doing, me?
Once I hear the atmosphere, there's no, you know.
Morning. I just come out in the center.
You went and checked them nice nose and them?
I went down there to give me a zubu by the bike. And I go and get me a zubu.
Oh, Lord.
Yes, I just come back. Everything all right?
Everything is great.
I want to say good morning to everybody. You listening, me?
Yes, I hear you.
Sheldon?
Yeah. Oh, you're not hearing me properly. Let me pull the phone again. Yeah.
I want to say good morning to Patty and Matthew and Sawat, Bingo, all the friends that Mr. Depodine, everybody.
Yes, I ain't saying
good morning to everybody who's listening to me.
I'm not saying
Patty and Cox and also to you and Smith. Good morning to everybody. Devon. Well, I just sit down between them guys here. Yeah, one of them boss man they are watching me because he driving over the number 6. What calling the name for? Why do you want to tell me how to buy a bucket there? You see how they watching me bad. You understand? What calling the name for again? Number 6 over the hill, and here one they call old dog. Over the hill too. But them guys and them, you know, besides what we have. They want to support me. Hold on. Tell them the day. Oh, you sit down. Oh, so nice today. I want to say good morning to everybody who's listening to my voice. And thank God we need to be living, you know?
Yes, indeed.
And I want to say good morning to my son, Dad Scott, Danny Scott, Daniel Scott, in England and America, and Akira Scott, and Andrea Scott. My 5 children. And to the Chinese doctors, thank you very much. Thank you. They will take care of me. And all the nurses and doctors in Grenada. Yes. Nurse Ben too. And Nurse Jacob. And Nurse Bobla White. All these nurses, Dr. McLeish and Dr. Thomas, Dr. Philip, Dr. John, all the nurses. I can't remember the name. Good morning, I say good morning to them. And you shall all have a blessed day. We sitting here, and the people taking a bus going to different areas, they're making a little money to them.
Yes.
And Zai and everybody, KB, everybody, Stanley, all the general busmen, Andy, good morning. Fluffy, I have the water. Tell Fluffy I have the water ready, well cold and nice.
Uncle Fluff.
Yes, so I sit down and I have to stretch my foot.
Okay, my dear.
I have to keep it up.
Well,
so you have a good day.
You have a good one as well, my love.
Bye-bye.
Right. Yes, indeed. That's Kiami down there on the bus terminal. Remember, anytime you're in Grenada, I had to pass down. All your Christmas coming up, you know. Yeah, Christmas coming up. I hope all you organize my thing and all you have my thing. And when I pass, I ask them a little piece of salt ham. And so I'm making sure I'm making sure my blood pressure in the correct range. So when I pass, I could afford to eat a little piece of salt ham. Right? Yeah, I just need a little more exercise. That is what I need, a little more exercise. Once I had that, I'm good. Right? So I could pass, I could eat a little salt ham. Could pass, I could eat a little piece of cake and thing. Nice. Right. Nice. So organize me. Christmas coming up. We in October. By the time October done is November. And by the time November, you know what happening. Right. Christmas right on the back already. Also, remember the budget is coming up as well. Yeah. So budget debate. It's going to be interesting. Budget is coming up pretty soon. And it's going to be the first budget read at the new location. I don't know how they fit in all the people who does come to hear budget. So I feel some going to be inside and some might have to be outside. I feel that's what might end up taking place. Some might be inside and some might have to be outside. But the budget speech is coming up. Yeah, and you're going to be hearing about the financial situation, the achievements and so on of 2018 as we look down the barrel of 2019. Imagine the year near done already, you know. Yeah, I just passed by Ding. I now remember when I passed by Ding on the 1st of January, New Year's morning. I passed by Ding just the other day. I find I wasn't. I passed by Ding to get my breakfast for New Year's. And we already, the year near done already. Ding! Blue bubbles. Yeah, the year near done already. What is this? Pass real fast, but maybe I enjoy this one too much. Yeah. 440-7377. That's 440-7377. That's the number for you to call and get onto the inside. Good morning to you, Bevon. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. Not Devon, no, Bevon. Yeah, Devon listening to Brendoy. I know you're listening there too. But good morning to both of you. Yeah, and folks, those of you out in St. David, remember the CCJ Advisory Committee is coming your way, right? And they will be doing that this Wednesday, the day after tomorrow, at the Wester Hall Secondary School. So whether you're from Corinth, or whether you're from Apwetu, or whether you're from Beaton, Laura, Lafemme, whether you're from Wester Hall itself, yeah, wherever you are, what does call that area down there again, boy? But it's a part of Kobotong that kind of fall in the St. David side. So we taking that part too. You could come. Berot, Mardi Gras, wherever you are in St. David, you can find your way down to the Wester Hall Secondary School, the Prime Minister of Dominica. Now, Dominica is one of the countries that already has the CCJ as their appellate court. So the Prime Minister of Dominica can speak from experience and say yea or nay, as if that is the way to go. Yeah, so it's good to hear from him. And we'll also be taking your questions. There'll be other presentations because, you know, you have some people that are brilliant in this thing. When it comes to people like Dr. Francis Alexis, Sir Lawrence Joseph, so you have Ruggles Ferguson, so Mrs. Michelle Steele, quite a few other people very versed in this particular area who will also be making presentations. So you can come on out and you could hear. You see what you could do with all that cake and ham. Me, Hannah, you feel I go get a lot of stuff. What I go do with all that cake and ham? Cake and ham is to eat. Where you think I go in and do with it? I mean, I go moderate because I ain't want to raise the blood pressure too much, so I can't eat too much of the ham one go. But that is why they're fridges. And it's salted ham. It ain't go spoil in a hurry. It go last. Yeah, so February, March, all down there eating ham. Don't vex. Or you could come and help me. 440-7377. So, folks, that's happening in St. David, West Hall, St. David, this Wednesday from 6 p.m., yeah? Also, I mentioned it in passing a while ago. But I have to be careful how I say this, though. I have to be extremely careful how I say this. The reason being, and Prime Minister did mention that, on Thursday, the Karakou port in Harveyville was opened, officially handed over, the new port. It's not open yet, so the Osprey is still going up to Hillsborough. For those of you that want to know, the Osprey is still going up to Hillsborough, right? We'll stop in a while and start coming down. You go organize and see, right? But for now, the Osprey is still going up there. But the handing over took place last week, Thursday. And Papa, I'm sorry. Mr. Technical Man no inside for us to show you the port. But when he's here during this week, we're going to show you what the new Karaku port looks like. And Papayo, don't be surprised if you see men who working in the port down here asking for transfer to Karaku. That is what I have to say. Do not be surprised. They have an arrival area, arrival and departure area that is actually looking like an airport. The only thing I didn't see inside there was, you know, where you just rest your luggage and the carousel and come out and that kind of thing. That's the only thing that's missing in the arrival and departure area, the new port in Karaku down in Harveyville. And maybe I talk too fast because they maybe have it on the way to put inside there. Yeah? A little carousel, so they take your luggage off and they throw it on that, and then you go and you pick it up on the outside. Nah, they ain't had that yet. But that's the only thing that's missing from proper bathroom facilities. And it may sound this, what are you talking about bathroom facilities? Have you ever been through where you have to travel now from Hillsborough and something hold you? Then you're going to know why bathroom facilities are so very important. Proper bathroom facilities and so proper storage facilities. It also gives the people of Karaku and Petit Martinique the opportunity now of having containerized cargo shipped directly to Karaku. What obtained before is that you had to ship your container stuff down to Grenada, and then either you break bulk it. In other words, you open the container and you put it in the smaller packages and you put it on one of the vessels and you send it up Karaku. Or if you're lucky enough to get your container onto the Alexia or so on, and then you still have to break bulk it when you get up to Hillsborough. Not Hillsborough, to Harveyville. You still have to break bulk it and that kind of thing. But now you have the opportunity to have your containerized cargo move directly to the port in Harveyville. Yeah? So your containerized cargo can come up to Harveyville, and that, believe me, that's just a wonderful thing for the people of Karaku and Petit Martinique. I know, though, that some people have been expressing concerns about what is going to happen to the town of Hillsborough now that the Osprey is stopping, expected to be stopping down at the new facility. I don't really see it having much of an effect on it, you know, because the people who are coming up, the guest houses are still all up in Hillsborough mainly. Whether it's Addie's Dream, good morning to the staff out there at Addie's Dream. Whether it's Addie's Dream or Lorena and my friends in the Joke Pit, good morning. Yeah. So, or at John's Unique, good morning to the staff out there at John's Unique. Or my good friend Jigger down the road. Or the people at the Osprey's guest house and so on. All of them are within Hillsborough. So folks still have to stay in Hillsborough. Yeah? So folks coming up from Grenada, they still have to stay in Hillsborough. It's going to be good for the taxi men, and now they'll have more of an opportunity, because usually you drop off the Osprey and you just walk directly to which guest house it is you're going. Now you either have to have Wayne by Wayne's Garage. I'll find a calling real people in Karaku name, yeah. I'll just get wrong with that. Yeah, Wayne at Wayne's Garage. Right? You had to get Wayne to come down with one of them rental for you so you collect your rental down in Harveyville. Or you had to take a taxi for a bus from Harveyville up to Hillsborough. But I don't think it's going to affect Hillsborough in a significant way. Most of the businesses do have transport. So they're going to utilize those transport to bring their cargo now from down in Harveyville up to Hillsborough. Maybe I'm not seeing something that the person who lives and who works and who operates a business in Hillsborough, maybe I, as an outsider from there, I'm not seeing what a person there is seeing. So I may be subject to correction. But I don't see it significantly affecting Hillsborough, since all activities are still there. All of the major facilities are still there. Yes, there are one or two guest houses in Harveyville, but you still have to go up to Hillsborough to do what you have to do. Yeah? So I still believe that it's going to balance itself out. 4407377. Good morning, Curtis and Patrick, little Rena and the whole family out there. Hope all of you all are having a wonderful morning this morning. And Rena, yeah, I hope you didn't see no more serpent on them, man. Hannah, what you was doing at Millie's guest house?
Down with colonialism. That was the slogan.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning, caller. You're live. Good morning. You're live. Go right ahead.
Hi, good morning, Sheldon.
Morning.
Hold on for Miss Millie.
Okay, no problem.
Morning.
Miss Millie, how are you?
You know when you hear that voice.
Yeah, you're real. Give me up. But it's okay. I love you still.
Eh?
I love you still. You give me up, but I love you still.
Yes, I'm calling you because you know. I want to speak to so bad when you finish with the program.
Okay, well, I'm here.
You and them, Devon, and they're telling that morning, and I hear Miss Jacob doing well, tell that morning from me.
Yes, but she's home now.
Eh?
She's home now. You'll get her at home.
She home?
Yeah, she's home now.
Yes, but you know what time to talk to you, know, eh?
Yes, yes, yes. You give me a call.
Your call after?
Yeah, I'll hang around for a few minutes.
All right, baby. Just wait. I will call you because I really want to talk to you.
No problem, my love. I'll be here.
I say forget me.
Yeah. I can't forget you.
Please, after when election, I don't hear you again, you know.
Papa,
I say you calling everybody. Sheldon, don't call me a lie. You don't want to listen you.
Watch. You know the amount of people are vexed with me because I don't call in them? You hear how to call out Paddy's stuff one after the other? And I can't forget nobody, you know.
Yes.
I know if they have a guard dog, but I have to get the guard dog name too.
Oh, God.
If Paddy's staff have a guard dog, I have to get the guard dog name too, you know.
Yes, sir.
Because the dog listening?
Yes, so you're Devon good?
Yes, I'm okay. Devon is out this morning.
Okay.
But I'll call him later to see if everything is okay for him to be in tomorrow.
All right.
All right?
So they here waiting. So if you don't have time to say I call you, just call me.
Okay, my love.
Are they by my sister waiting?
Yes, well, I had the number.
All right.
All right, great, thanks.
Okay, bye.
Yes, indeed. That's my good friend up there in Birch Grove, Miss Millie. Yeah, Hannah, you see, you talk about Millie's guest house, and one time Miss Millie called. You see, you understand? Nice, right? Good morning, Birch Grove. I hope you all are having a wonderful day today. Hey, and let me say a special good morning to Superstar. Yeah, all you know, I always talking about Superstar. Yeah, Superstar, man. Truly a superstar. Yeah, so I had to say good morning to her as well. All right, 440-7377 for those of you outside of Grenada, 347-329-3101. Yeah, so they have that new port authority, that new port that has been constructed in Carriacou. Carriacou, a little looking nice day. Yeah, good morning.
Mr. Scott, pleasant morning to you, sir.
Hey, Papa, how are you?
Well, I don't know. Well, I'm good. I don't know. Yeah, I'm good. No, right, Mr. Scott, this morning, you know, because I have listened to the discussion that has taken place over the last week. So this morning, I want to make a comment about the Prime Minister's statement that is causing so much discomfort in certain circles.
Considering where you're working, you sure you want to make that statement?
Well, I believe I was very mindful of that, and I think I crafted my contribution in a way that it should be quite acceptable.
Go right ahead, sir.
No, let me say this here, Mr. Scott. While I believe this statement, generally speaking, is true, the broad brush approach, I believe, is what causing some anxiety. Because, you know, there are people, let's say doctors, nurses, and others, you know, performing their duties in the most diligent way every day. People who take nothing away and do nothing untoward. Now, remember, Mr. Scott, I am the supervisor for the company that provides security for the both hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, from a security standpoint, here, we are fully on top of what is happening in that place. We have tagged the department and individuals who are known abusers. You know.
So hold on. So you're admitting that what the Prime Minister said happens is happening?
Oh, well, Mr. Scott, you know, you see, I try to say anything, and then you see how you want to kind of...
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
You understand? And we have tagged the different men and abusers. We know what needs to be done. The question is, from a security standpoint, why it have not been done. You know, and I'm saying here that I'm convinced much have not gone to the policy makers as a result of our suggestions and proposals. That is from a security standpoint. Now, I must also say that the last director have done all she could have done with the resources that she have. Now, Mr. Scott, listen. I believe we all know what our problems at that institution is. They are quite solvable. Let us put the structures and mechanisms in place and hold managers and supervisors accountable. Policy must be forthcoming and they must be implemented with straight guidelines and conditions for everyone to follow. And Mr. Scott, that is as far, as, I decide to go. Now, because you see, I have to be very careful how I tread here. Mr. Scott, the problem in the hospital is not an unsolvable one. And that is why I say, look, I coming from the private sector. Now, from a security standpoint, you cannot come into an establishment and just implement your rules and your things just like that. It has to be the policy of the establishment, it's not just so. No, for example, I work at Sandals, Mr. Scott. And do you know, if you refuse a security check at Sandals, if that is not your last day at work where you will be fired, it is your last day until you come back to find out how long you will be suspended for. You understand? Because as far as they're concerned, they need to know what is coming into the property. They need to know what is going out. And like I've said, the statement, so some people might be saying, Mr. Scott, well, how come this man could be saying he's supervisor of security and all these things is happening? Well, you have to go back to what I've just said. As a security company, you cannot just come and implement things. And you see the same the Prime Minister's statement comes from as a result of frustration. This kind of frustration, Mr. Scott, I have expressed it in many different circles. You understand? And many different occasions. But like I've said, you cannot do things on your own unless it becomes policy. But all what the gentleman say, is happening, like I said, is the broad brush approach. People would have liked him to say, well, look, this person and that area, maybe which he cannot do. But remember what I say, as generally speaking, this statement is a correct one. And what I find is that many people who I talk to, who are even anti-government, still for all, they agree that the statement is a correct one. It is a good statement. But what they're saying is that is the environment and the broad brush approach is what create the problem. Mr. Scott, I hope I make sense of what I'm saying, what I've said here today.
Yes,
have a pleasant day.
All right, my brother. But see, the thing is, people often hear what they want to hear, and then they interpret it in whichever way they want to interpret it. I've sat in classes of psychology before where a message was passed from the back of the class to the front of the class, or the front of the class to the back of the class. The teacher would whisper something into one person's ear and tell them to pass it on. And you'd be very surprised that by the time the message gets back to the teacher, that it's something totally different than what was originally said. Because people hear and people twist whatever they hear for their own individual things. The Prime Minister said the mindset of some. The mindset of some means some individuals, not all. And therefore, I find it extremely disgusting that any drag your foot person would stand up at the side of the road and see nurse A or B passing in her uniform and throw any kind of talk at her or him. I find it extremely disheartening and disgusting. Unfortunate, and indeed, it must not be done. For anybody to see a doctor passing or a food server at the hospital and throwing word for them. Who is you? Who gave you the right to do that? The Prime Minister wasn't doing that. He called out. And you just heard from a person who is the supervisor at the security at the facility. And he is admitting that, yes, what the Prime Minister says is true. Yeah? But you cannot just simply blame everybody. Yeah? So a student from GBSS do something, you won't blame all GBSS students? Is that the mentality? Come on, man. We have to start raising our level of thinking and reasoning. We have to start evolving our brain in some instances. So you see a student from SAS do something. You're going to blame all SAS students? Huh? Is that how we're thinking now? So every time a student passes with a SAS tie, you're going to throw talk at them? Is that how our brain is operating? Something has happened, is happening, has to be dealt with. That's the main thing. Yeah? But for anybody to see one of the nurses or doctors or anybody and play the train talk at them, I hope they take you to court. And I don't mind paying their lawyer fee to make sure that some of UNO know what to say. Yeah? Because, you know, we have this mentality that we have to learn to deal with and we have to start dealing with in our country. Yeah? And it comes from slavery. In that we like to see people who have achieved come down to nothing. And don't give me that kind of thing like, oh God, you don't know what he's saying. It happening. We love to see people who up there come down. Who is that slave? Who is he to be living in Massa house while I still living in the barracks? Who is he to be dressing better than me? You have it. You see a young lady pass and she dressed nice. She ain't dressed out of the way, she dressed properly. And you see another girl pass and so she playing thing with herself. She wearing she clothes. She money spent for it. And if it's not she money, at least somebody love her enough or like her enough to give her the money to get it. But it's hers. That's why she have it on. But some people pass, she passing, or she feels she's thing. You're a young fella. Nobody was around when you was studying 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was there when you're writing your exam. You get your little job. You save your little money. You buy your little vehicle. As soon as you jump in your vehicle and you start to drive off, who he feel he is? So he feel his thing because he have a big car. Sometimes the car could be the size of a matchbox. Who he feel? He feel his thing because he have a big car and he driving. Big ride, big ride. Your money heavy. Because we have a dirty mentality, many of us, that we need to start washing and filtering and getting rid of. There's that mentality that we don't like to see others prosper. We don't like to see others move. Yeah? So if everybody drinking Black Sage in the morning, nobody mustn't drink Milo. We don't want to see that. If you start to drink Milo, oh, you're breaking from the norm. Who you feel you is? Oh, so you went in the States and you come back, or you went in England and you come back and you feel you're better than us. So we drinking Black Sage and you drinking Milo. And I'm saying this to say that some of the same people is the ones who would see a doctor passing. And because they misinterpret a statement, because they want to add their own meaning to a statement, they see that as an opportunity to break down that person. So they think they could open them out and just tell them as they want. They see a nurse, a person who these days they have to pay to go and get their nursing degree. And you see them pass in a nice uniform. Oh, she feels she ain't think too much. She's nurse. I hear all she doing up there, she's just sleeping. And you don't hear? They thieving this and they thieving that. Do you know that for a fact about the person that you see? Do you know that for a fact about the person you see passing there? And then you go and you're telling them things. And when you fall sick, is the same nurse that had to see after you. And you know they're doing it with the best of their ability. They ain't holding no malice in their heart. They ain't forgetting what you're saying, or they're keeping it. But they're doing what they have to do to the best of their ability to make sure that you get the care that you need. We have a slave mentality that we have to get rid of. I've spoken about it more than once. Because we like to see heroes fall. Get rid of that mentality. While other nations and other countries trying to build their people, you trying to destroy yours. Yeah? Be it the woman who might have come from nowhere and nothing, no big family name, no big means, may have even made 2 or 3 children, but she has made something of herself. And you see her rising, and then you find some people. I was surprised the other day. There's this young mother that I know, and she didn't even complete primary school, much less get to go to secondary school. And that young mother is at university now. You heard what I said, eh? She's at university now. And another young mother who is around the same age of her. Oh, she feels she's thing because she going university. Who she feels she is? She going university. Yes, it's stupidness. For you to go and try and go university too. For you to go and try and get 1 or 2 subjects. So you could go university too. Didian, who she feels she is? She going university. We papa, and they laughing. Laugh. But in 4 to 5 years, the person you're laughing at coming out with a degree, and when they go and look for a job, they're going to call $3,000 and $4,000 at least. Meanwhile, you're unemployed and unemployable. Change your mentality. We need to change that mentality. Yeah? That's the mentality what some of all you have. Why you seeing the nurses passing and the doctors passing now and interfering with them? Stop it. The law will do what the law had to do. The security will do what the security have to do. And by goodness, the Prime Minister will always do what the Prime Minister has to do. Yeah? That's a fact. Folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talk today. It's been wonderful being here with you. And remember, the meetings for tomorrow, St. Andrew Northwest at the Byland School, St. George Southeast and St. George South, they'll be at the Springs Government School, and St. Mark by Beverly Shop, all for 6 p.m. tomorrow. And then remember, on Wednesday, call anybody you know in St. David and tell them Prime Minister Roosevelt Scott of Dominica, he'll be there to discuss the issue of the CCJ as Grenada's final appellate court. Yeah, he'll be discussing that particular issue, and you'll have other presentations and so on. A little bit of culture at St. David's. You can't go St. David's and we do have some culture. Yes, St. David's is a cultural place. We're bad like that, right? So we'll be discussing all of these issues on Wednesday from 6 p.m. at the Wester Hall Secondary School. I will be there definitely, God's willing. So I intend to see each and every one of you that can make it, especially those of you from the St. David area. Yeah, I especially hope to see you all day. All right? So, folks, stop interfering with them nurses. Stop interfering with them doctors. They must sue all you. Some of you don't know what to say. It should have a disease called teeth falloutitis. So as soon as some of you say something that untrue, or they try to bad mind or bad talk, people, the teeth must just drop out all your mouth. Yeah? Then all you have to go by gentle dental care to try and fix it up. Folks, that's all the time we have for Hard Talk. It's been wonderful being here. We are out. Do enjoy the rest of your day. And whatever you say and do it safe and secure. We want to be speaking to and with you and not about you. I am out.
Persons insisting on entering a polling booth with cellular phone or cameras on election day can now be charged or imprisoned. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, October 5th, 2018, I am Rikisha St. Louis. A person who insists on going into a polling booth with his or her cellular phone or camera on election day can now find himself having to pay a fine of $500 or spend 6 months in prison. The Lower House of Parliament passed the Representation of the People Amendment Bill on Friday, which states that no person shall have in his or her possession any electronic device upon entering a polling booth to cast their ballot on polling day. If the person inadvertently walks into the polling booth with any of these devices, he will be required to hand it over to the returning officer, who will then return it after he has cast his ballot. Leader of Government Business, Honorable Gregory Bowen, says the measure is to ensure transparency in the voting process.
Most countries and most political parties are banning the use of cell phones, any electronic system. People think it's only cell phones that go take pictures here. Yeah? We have not reached that stage there. Some pin here, some pin there. The mirror. Maybe you're not, or the glasses, maybe you're not sophisticated as that as yet. See my brother Steele is smiling. So you go in, the law doesn't say glasses. I don't believe that we could cover all area in a modern technological world. But the phones, so we're saying phones and we mention cameras, but there are many other things. But this is what will mainly happen. This is what people mainly use. So we now say, do not go into the polling division with a phone.
Minister Bowen says failure to follow this rule could land an offender on the other side of the law.
I'm sure that when the police said you go out or leave it outside, if you inadvertently walked in with it, then I don't think that they charge you so much once you hasten to go back. But if you want to say, no, I'm going with it, then perhaps you're going to end up in serious trouble. There are fines for it, Mr. Speaker.
The Representation of the People Amendment Bill also makes provision for electoral candidates or nominees to do away with the practice of walking with cash on nomination day and simply walking with an official receipt following payment at the government treasury. The amendment states that every candidate or someone on his or her behalf shall, at the time of his or her nomination, provide to the returning officer an official receipt from the Treasury or Revenue Office evidence in payment by the candidate of the nomination deposit of $500 cash. Failing to do so means the nomination of the candidate will be deemed void. Leader of Government Business in the Lower House, Honorable Gregory Bowen, says the decision was made after consultations with the Supervisor of Election and other political parties on the representation of the People's Amendment Act 2018.
This is now saying that you can go into the Treasury and pay it into the Treasury and not burden the man by collecting the money and going there. What you want, therefore, is to show on nomination day that you have a receipt. I think we only pay on nomination day. This will allow you to pay maybe a day before or a week before, and you walk with your receipt, and the returning officer, at that time the registration officer will inspect, and well, obviously you come with a receipt. I don't think anybody will try to forge a receipt, but it is within his purview to really see that the receipt is authentic, and then on nomination day, you bring that receipt.
According to Minister Bowen, the nomination fee has increased to $500, an increase of $200, a decision again made through consultations with political parties. Mentally challenged individuals still have an identity and a voice. That statement by Minister for Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, Honorable Delma Thomas. During a meeting of the Lower House on Friday, a visibly emotional Minister Thomas addressed the recent circulation of videos of mentally challenged persons on social media. She says it is unfair and inhumane to be making a public spectacle of those who are clearly not in control of their actions.
The video has been transmitted to thousands of people. On the video, what appears to be the voice of two men taking pleasure in conducting the filming as well as making inappropriate, demeaning remarks. Thankfully, Mr. Speaker, the woman has been identified by the police and she has since been brought in for medical and treatment she deserves.
The month of October is designated Mental Health Awareness Month. However, society continues to fail these individuals. Minister Thomas charged the members of the public to be more responsible, more sensitive, and to be their neighbor's keeper.
We as a society must be more sensitive to people with mental illness. What was seen on the tape was not a girl, a woman or a sister deserving of ridicule, but of a fellow human being deserving of our help and intervention. At a time when she was most vulnerable, we as a society failed her. The young men who took the effort and the energy to film her so that she could be the object of ridicule should have used the same energy to reach out to help her. For the scores of people who have distributed the video and who have taken pleasure in extending the scope of the ridicule should think deep within themselves.
This is the National Report. More news after the break.
The safety on our roads make this a major priority. Health of our people, a crucial necessity. Accidents happen when road users are either irresponsible or inconsiderate in one way or the other. Play your part. Reduce your speed. Be attentive. It is your personal responsibility. Let 2017 be the start of no more road fatalities. Be safe, be seen, be smart. So let's wise up as a nation. Get to your destination safe.
Welcome back. Anglican High School students had an opportunity to engage with the Minister for Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs, Honorable Emmeline Pay, at the school this week, where the minister addressed several topics related to this year's Child Month theme, keeping all our children safe. Details from Annette Moore.
The minister spoke on child abuse and water, fire and internet safety, inclusive of children's rights and responsibilities.
One of the things that Grenada would have signed on to when it signed on to the Convention on the Rights of the Child is that of protection of our children.
Students enjoyed the interaction, answering questions and participating in the minister's presentation with youthful enthusiasm.
I think that one sounds familiar to you. So we know we cannot swim, but our friends can swim. And so we want to impress our friends and we decide we're going to try to do what we are not able to do.
Apart from dangers resulting from the unsafe use of beaches and other areas for swimming and water sports, the minister cautioned students to pay attention to their home environment and to assist in making smart choices that will keep everyone safe, noting the tragic loss of lives in recent fires for the year 2018.
But then I would ask myself a question, who is really supposed to be protecting our children? I heard three very interesting answers, and I'm going to repeat them this morning. Right? I heard parents, I heard God, I heard a very interesting one. We are supposed to be protecting ourselves.
Speaking on internet safety, the minister advised students to be vigilant in spotting cyber criminals, of the importance of using social media responsibly, and the impact of one's social media presence on future job and other opportunities.
You don't want to live two lives. You want to live one life that is an open book, that anytime somebody reads that book, they can smile.
And of course, new developments in the struggle against sexual abuse were mentioned.
I say to you, be bold, be brave, and speak out. Say that for me. Be bold, be brave, and speak out. In case you are thinking that there is nobody that you can speak to, because you don't trust that they are going to be doing something or saying something and you probably don't have the confidence in them, there is a new hotline. The number And let me say, so everybody knows it after today, the number is 400.
Child Month activities continue with media appearances, Child Month marches, and more. Additional information can be obtained from the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development and Religious Affairs and from the various educational institutions.
On behalf of the principal, teachers and students of the Anglican High School, I would like to say thank you for taking the time off from your schedules to come here and speak with us on child protection.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
That story just ended the National Report for today, Friday, October 5th, 2018. Now to recap the top story. Persons insisting on entering a polling booth with cellular phone or cameras on election day can now be charged or imprisoned. On behalf of all those who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for viewing. Until Monday, have a safe weekend.
The CCJ will be a Caribbean court, reflective of Caribbean culture, Caribbean values, and everything Caribbean. I ask this question: which court do you think will adequately reflect the views of Caribbean people to those who worry? Will it be the Privy Council, persons in Britain, persons who have never lived in Caribbean, persons who don't share our values, persons who don't understand what we stand for and what values we uphold? Or would it be our people who have grown among us, who live among us, who attend the churches we attend, who attend the schools we attend, who are members of the soccer teams that we are members of? Who best do you think will reflect us?
It's about time. It's long overdue. We should be there because, you know, get out of the British thing, and so we are all one Caribbean, and I think that will be binding us more together.
Yours is yours. Privy Council is not ours. No matter what we do, what we say, no matter what ties we had to England, this is the time to keep divesting ourselves of those strings that tie us unnecessarily.
There's nothing in this bill for any partisan political party. Nothing. There's only one thing in this. It's for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, and for the Caribbean region as a whole.
Justice has to be accessible, affordable, and swift.
Grenada is about to embark on another historic mission of amending its constitution for the first time since its independence. From all indication, the push is for the changes to be made before the end of the year, 2 years after the first attempt failed.
I believe the CCJ is an important issue to take a second look at, and we're involving the same people, the community group, the legal professions, and other parties involved. And hopefully we'll have everyone playing a very united role in going forward, because if we do not work together, then clearly it's not necessarily going to pass. And I think it would be a tragedy of justice for this country and for the Caribbean. But I think it's about time that we stop having faith in everybody else but ourselves. All people, jurists have served regional and international institutions around with distinction, and it would be, to me, almost an insult to say to ourselves that we cannot be responsible for justice in our country.
2 years ago, 8 bills were tabled for constitution change, but this time around, the focus is on one which, if successful, will see the Caribbean Court of Justice replacing the London Privy Council as the final court of appeal. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, who was re-elected to office by a landslide victory on March 13, 2018, says he intends to play an active role this time around.
And the CCJ so far has demonstrated that it has stood out in terms of its decision-making process. And no one can say that the governments who are now the countries that are now part of the CCJ are getting decisions based on the govern those in political office. So in that sense, the people should be very happy that it's very independent judicial process, and I certainly, as a Grenadian and a Caribbean man, I certainly would want to support it. I will play a much more active role this time than I did the last time.
The bill seeking the constitutional change is already out. It's called the Constitution of Grenada Caribbean Court of Justice and Other Justice-Related Matters Amendment Bill 2018, one of the 8 attempted 2 years ago. It includes almost everything in the 2016 bill, but removed are the sections that speak about the code of conduct for public officials and the swearing allegiance to the country. Debate has continued over the years about doing away with the Privy Council and replacing it with the Caribbean Court of Justice system, the CCJ. The Privy Council in London and the CCJ based in Trinidad are both a final court of appeal that retries civil and criminal cases if the original ruling is thought not to be satisfactory. But proponents argue that the CCJ, formed and operated by the Caribbean people, would allow for a sense of independence and would make access to a fair trial much easier.
The arguments in favor of independence, the CCJ being an independent court, and in fact, the CCJ being one of the most independent courts in terms of structure and appointment of judges, not just in the region, but it is used as a model for other courts, particularly in relation to financing and in relation to the selection of judges. And that ultimately is the test.
There have been some recurring points of concerns about the idea of the CCJ as Grenada's final court of appeal, access, cost, and the likelihood of political interference.
What the CCJ has done and what has been approved with respect to the CCJ is the setting up of this independent trust fund that is managed by a board of trustees. And what is important about that board of trustees and the composition of that board of trustees is that you have no politicians at all on that board.
Former Minister of Legal Affairs Elvin Nimrod tabled the bill in Parliament in 2016. Newly appointed Minister of Legal Affairs, Honorable Kindra Mathurin-Stewart, says the implementation of the CCJ to Grenada will enhance the judiciary system of the trial and state.
For Grenada to have access to the CCJ as its final appellate court, that would mean for us here in Grenada that our people would have greater access to justice. As you know, with the Privy Council, persons had to travel far to England to access the Privy Council. But of course, the CCJ is right next door, and I believe, of course, with its location and its ease of access, that locals, ordinary people like me and you, would be able to have access to justice.
The Legal Affairs Minister says she believes there are competent experts here that are capable to execute the process.
I believe that we in the Caribbean are capable of creating and making our own jurisprudence. We don't have to depend on English judges and English folks to make jurisprudence for us. And I believe that we are well capable. We've had notable jurists and persons coming out or emanating from the Caribbean, CARICOM. And I believe that we possess that talent, we possess that experiences, and I believe that we are well poised to create our own jurisprudence. That in its sense alone too would basically signal, of course, a greater independence for us as an independent nation of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
In October of 2016, the Grenada Constitution reform was held, where citizens took to the polls to cast their ballots for or against the implementation of the CCJ as the final appellate court. Constitution reform process then was denied based on the outcome of the votes. Although CARICOM created the CCJ as a replacement for the Privy Council, it did not fully replicate the British system. Instead, it chose to copy certain practices while creating other divergent ones. Residents here say, while they are willing to accept the change, there must be proper consultation on the subject.
Public education, and my first observation is that there are too many lessons, or if not lessons, too many chapters, or if not chapters, too many books to be learned within that space of time. The bills, the issues for the referendum, they are significant enough and far-reaching to have what I refer to as a limited time.
That of the CCJ, which country like Trinidad, Barbados, country which implemented that CCJ and they are ineffective already, they still go to the Privy Council for hearing in the jurisdiction. So we go into the CCJ now. We are neglecting the Privy Council and go to the CCJ. And them countries which are still implementing the CCJ, the Privy Council for a hearing. So how that go be looked when we neglect the Privy Council and go to the CCJ, and them countries which implemented the CCJ are still under the Privy Council.
During the swearing-in ceremony, after winning all 15 seats at the 2018 general election, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell reassured the nation that consultation and education on the process will soon resume.
As each of us seeks to protect and save our children, we must look out also for our neighbors' children and to the broader issue of justice. And as it is also related to our independence and to our national identity, we must open up a dialogue again about joining the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.